Like, was it the way that you learned, or do you like, how did you learn basically?
If we're talking about like the same volume of training, I would definitely say like, I mean, I was fortunate enough that I was introduced to like a lot of very like intelligent means of training very early on. So my original coach in Nanjing, he's under a guy named Rob Bernacki, and he's out of Nanaimo in Canada. He has a gym called Island Top Team. And so he was like very heavy on a lot of like concepts in jiu-jitsu. So a lot of the way I approached training it really stemmed on that. And at a similar time, when I had no responsibilities in school, I was watching a lot of tape and I was listening to a lot of podcasts. So this is when BJJ Mental Models, if you're familiar with this podcast, started kicking off, and it gave me a lot of time to really listen to a lot of these ideas. And the guys who started Mental Models, one of them is black belt under Bernacki, Matt Kwan. And so it really introduced a lot of these ideas and kind of exposed me to them more after having already been somewhat familiar to them, just because of my coach really teaching that. But then being able to go into more depth. So like, for example, he talks about like different ways to interpret information in jiu-jitsu. So he he has this thing called alignment theory, which is basically everything can be broken down into posture, structure, base. And then he defines these things. It's not just like, this is something I really like, where it's like, if you want to think about a problem, right, things have to be fairly clear for you to actually like derive things from them and then come to conclusions. So for example, it's not like you hear this a lot where it's like, oh, you want to be in good base, but what does it actually mean, right? It's like it's hard to define. So he like came up with definitions for all these things, and so it makes it easier to think about. So for example, like base is, well, at least his definition at the time was, your base is your ability to generate and absorb force relative to your goals. And this is a very like easy definition. So you can think about base more creatively now, because now you can fit that into so many different positions. Base isn't just being on top and being stable. Base can be, you can be on bottom playing guard, but if you have a good ability to carry weight and then like exert force, this means you're in good base. Similarly, like you can make different analogies, right? If I'm a sprinter, there's optimal base for sprinting, but that doesn't mean it's the optimal base for everything, right? Similarly in jiu-jitsu, it's like, this is how you can kind of take an idea and carry it over to a bunch of different areas. So stuff like that was really helpful for me. So I think thinking about things that way, and then obviously not having many obligations. I mean, being 15 years old during the pandemic, didn't have much I had to do. I didn't do much homework. So
when you see jiu-jitsu in a lot of like a lot of the videos like on YouTube, for example, like it's kind of like, it seems like a little bit of like a meathead culture with like wrestling and stuff like that as well. But then you seem to take a lot more of like an intellectual approach to jiu-jitsu. Do you think some people just do it on kind of like a instinctual level? And you think,
I mean, not everyone. I definitely think there are a lot of people who are very like intelligent about the way they approach it, but it would be, there's no denying that there's definitely that culture of being like, like being very strong sport, and like kind of just like trying harder, you know? I mean, this and this. I mean, I might be mischaracterizing, but isn't like Pohada like just like this kind of idea of like, oh, you just want to go. So I mean, I definitely think there's something to be said and something valuable about doing stuff like this, but then there's also, you have to use it intelligently. This can't be everything you're going with. You know, so I think like balancing the two, it's like you can't be like only toughness. And I think of this as like an idea that I really liked a lot was, actually I think I got this, it was like a distinction between growth and performance. And like, I believe I got this from a YouTube video talking about Tekken or like Street Fighter, where I was like talking about the difference between the two. And it's like, some people, if you're too much in a growth mindset, so like, it was like honers versus innovators. I think this is like a similar analog where some people, they just hone the same skill set over and over and really try to refine everything. And then some people, it's not so much about refinement, it's more about innovating with new ideas and trying to bring new techniques in. And so I really think ultimately in jiu-jitsu, it's about balancing the two. And it's a bit of a deviation from like going hard and like a meathead culture. But some people, it's like, I think, how can I connect this back where it's important to balance the two. And I found, like, for me at least in my jiu-jitsu, it's like basically when I'm about to compete, it's performance based, and that's really refining what I already have. Versus when I'm in a more of a off season or there's no immediate competitions coming up, then I'm in a more growth mindset where I'm going to be trying to on-take new information. And there are a lot of characteristics for each of these like mindsets, right? So if I'm more performance oriented, I'm going to be a lot more intuitive with the way I approach my training. I'm not going to think too much about, okay, what's happening in this position? What are I'm going to do what I know, and I'm going to try to do that in a very timely manner. Versus in a more of this growth mindset where I'm trying to take new information. I'm going to work at a slower pace. I'm going to think more consciously about things. And this isn't necessarily conducive to like winning, but it's going to help me really think about what I'm doing and then take new ideas.
Yeah.
And then I feel like some people, they just do one too much. You know, there's some people that are just like, they just drill and they just play around with stuff, but they don't really take the time to refine it to the degree where they can use it competitively. But then there are some people who have a game that they just stuck to, and that's all they do. And so I think ultimately for me, I was very intentional about this, where I was just, I was very like, I'm going to spend X period of time doing like this performance oriented approach, and then X period of time going with growth. And it's not like, I'm not so systematic in the sense I'm like, 2 weeks. It's more like a feeling, you know?
Yeah.
Where it's like, I feel like I feel pretty good with where I'm at for my skill set for this certain comp. So now I'm just going to focus on refining.
Wow.
If that makes sense.
Okay.
I mean, I went on a bit of a tangent there, but hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, just how I see it is like a lot of people in most gyms, they just kind of want to come in, do their rounds, and get out, basically, right? Like the way the jiu-jitsu class is structured. But you seem to have this whole other level of like learning, basically. So, so when you're training, for example, you don't kind of do the traditional like 30 minutes of class, positional sparring, and then just rolling, obviously, right? You approach it in a whole different manner.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's nothing wrong with doing that. Because,
of course, yeah.
I mean, jiu-jitsu is like, to different people, it can be different things. I think this is one of the things that makes a hobby, I'm not saying jiu-jitsu is special, like whatever hobby you're doing, it that takes you away from, it can give you a means to socialize, can give you a means to stay fit, can give you like something to think about, right? It's like whatever you want it to be, it can be this for you. I'm not saying everyone has to approach it exactly the way I am, right? But for me, the reason I enjoy it is because it kind of gives me this like intellectual playground where I can think about all these different ideas in this way. Right? I mean, obviously there's the bonus of, I can stay somewhat fit, and then I can also socialize. Like, I mean, most of my friends, are met through jiu-jitsu. I don't know how I would have known them otherwise. So yeah, but I think that's what I really enjoy the most. So like what you're describing, where it's like this kind of approach. Like I was fortunate enough again, where fairly early in my jiu-jitsu journey, like I was encouraged to watch instructionals, and even during class, once I got to a certain level, my instructor was like, man, you can drill as long as you don't interrupt the class, just drill whatever you want to drill. You can like, they're very open discourse about a lot of these new ideas, and he was very open to new information. So it really was a great environment for me to actually like really try to learn a lot of new things.
Yeah. So if we're gonna discuss, like, if you're gonna tell, like, explain this to an idiot.
Same, bro. That's the reason I'm doing jiu-jitsu, you know?
So like, in terms of like when you're doing training, for example, so let's say, what would that look like in a typical, let's say, week or month, and how you're trying to do it, basically? Is it like mostly positional sparring? Is it I'm studying this and I'm gonna try and do this during a roll? Yeah.
So I mean, for example, like right now we're leading up to, for me, CJI, Kenta, ADCC, right? So right now we're still far enough out where it's not going to be like super performance oriented. We're still working on the skills that are going to be, or what we think is going to be appropriate for the rule set, but then slowly incorporating rounds, maybe like a shorter volume throughout the week of, now we're going to do a competitive ADCC round. And like, this is something I think is very important. And it's like, you need that period where you get to practice these techniques, but then you need a period where you can actually use them in a competitive situation. So right now it's going to be more oriented towards ADCC, and that's the goal. But then when we're outside of that, man, I might just do something because I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Right. So for example, like a lot of stuff I was playing with before I came into like this camp is like no-gi omoplatas, and then using that and how I can play with that. Just because I found it interesting. I think it's cool. I don't think it's like mixing omoplata with crucifix and K-guard, and then like what Levi does in terms of like Xanadu guard. And this is just because I find it interesting. Yeah. I think a lot of my progress in jiu-jitsu is led by my own curiosity more than actually trying to win. You know, I mean, like now I do think about, what's the strategy for me to win a match, right? but it's still like largely guided by, okay, I think this is pretty interesting. I'm gonna try to play with this.
Yeah. So it's curiosity and the fact that you actually you had time to study, and you like. Would you say you like to study as well?
I mean, I like to study if I think it's interesting.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I think it's honestly about like finding what piques your interest. I do think, I mean, sometimes it can be, I'm not going to tell anyone you should sit through like an 8-hour instructional and bore yourself to death. I watch that.
Some people hate it, but
I watch those videos on at least 2 times speed.
Yeah.
By the way.
Oh,
but,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
I think we all know who we're talking about. But, but basically, I mean, I do that if I think it's necessary, right? But I try to be fairly introspective with where I think I need the most improvement. And so I'm like, okay, like for example, I feel like my supine guard is bad. Okay, then I'm going to work on my supine guard. And then what are some areas to start? I mean, it shouldn't be too difficult to find. There are plenty of instructionals talking about this, plenty of practitioners who do this very well.
Yeah.
And so whatever piques your interest, go down that path. You know, maybe it's not the most like optimal path. Like maybe you do something and it's like, oh, you kind of come to the conclusion where it's like, okay, it's not that good, but I mean, then you pivot, right?
Yeah. So regarding the introspection as well, like you you're thinking, oh, maybe I need to improve here, maybe I need to improve there. Would you say you can definitely like accelerate that via having someone else looking at your roles as well, or did you start doing this like by watching your own roles first?
I think it's most important to do it yourself.
Yeah.
I think there's nothing wrong with having like a coach help you, and I think it works very well. But in the long term, you want to be able to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Right? You want to be able to not rely on someone else, because otherwise you're going to be more or less a reflection of them and not your own practitioner. I think that there's definitely a time and a place, and it's not necessarily wrong to like really take out some stuff from like an instructor, but that can't be all.
You can't just be getting like spoon fed the whole time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think this. I mean, if you're just doing it for fun, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to get like, I think, as good as you can, you're going to have to, it's going to be a lot of you doing the work, you thinking about, okay, what am I going to do here? What do I think works for me? Because again, like I'm sure, I mean, you've trained for long enough to realize this, where it's like something that works for person A won't necessarily work for person B.
Absolutely.
Right. And then also thinking about why that is the case. And that's going to help you become a better instructor.
Yeah.
And it's like ultimately becoming, your own jiu-jitsu mind, where you're able to think about these problems critically and then derive certain solutions, and then you're able to like, I don't know, make everything make sense a little bit more. So I mean, this is I don't know, I feel like kind of the path that I went down, especially like really trying to get as good as I can, just because I thought it would be cool. You know, like I signed up for my first trials when I was an orange belt. Yeah. It got delayed till 2021, 2022. But I thought it was always fun, you know?
Because that's not something that we tell a lot of people. We've never really been super big into just drilling. I mean, I understand, you know, drilling it 10 times to install it in your mind, but, you know, whenever you ever got into a competition and the guy's just, you know, you do a knee cut and the guy just sits there on his back like, you know, your partner does. It's just not realistic, you know? So it doesn't take more than a handful of minutes to understand the technique. Because once you understand a technique, we're huge more into like specific trainings. You know, that's really how we figured out how to defend leg locks. And, you know, you could just sit there drilling, but I mean, the drill's only going to do so much for you. But you start any heel and kind of work backwards. Okay, why is this heel? Oh, this arm's is creating torque in his hips, or things like that. Starting in like specific trainings, I think can be so much more beneficial than just stagnant drilling.
About the fact that you're going to roll later that afternoon, or you got an early session the next morning, you're thinking about the moment, and so it feels good and you push yourself. The problem is that rest is a discipline in and of itself. That is the hardest thing for someone who has energy and likes activity to do, is to dial it back. How do you control for like your volume and your intensity and your workouts, so that what you're doing in the gym, your strength training and everything like that, isn't holding you back from working in the academy the way that you want?
I totally got that. So it's like knowing what your body is going through. So if my back's hurting, you know, nothing on my body ever just has a freak accident. You should never have freak accidents. You shouldn't, unless you're extremely weak somewhere, or if someone fell on your knee or slammed you in the gym. Like, those are freak accidents that make sense. But you shouldn't just be rolling and your back slip out. Like, that's obviously
fully agree.
Something's weak. Something's weak somewhere. You know, you don't have enough, you know, health somewhere. Like, you're dehydrated. Like, there could be so much factors. So you should be taking care of everything so you never have a freak accident. So, but you could have little tiny injuries that work their way up to a freak accident if you don't if you cross that boundary. So for me, when I'm lifting or when I'm training, when I'm preparing, like really, oh, I moved my camera. Is that
No, you're
better?
good. You're good.
Is
You're
that
good.
good? All right.
Yep.
All right. So let me go back a couple of seconds. So for me, you know, really listening to my body is the biggest key. So let's say my neck is hurting, um, and I'm lifting, maybe, early that morning if I know I'm gonna train pretty hard that night, doing some like very light neck physical therapy on like an iron neck, just like building up
Yep.
those muscles, not right before training where my neck's gonna be tired, but give enough time to like recover before training, or maybe working my traps that morning so that they'll support my neck, or if my shoulder's hurting and I'm doing a back day, like really listening to my body and not lifting too heavy. Um,
Yep.
so for me, another example I could give is my hips were hurting. And I was like, okay, I want to lift heavy legs today, but I just know I'm not. Okay, let's do a physical therapy day. So
Right.
I did really light hip flexors. I did core. I did glutes, hamstrings, all very light. And I wanted to lift heavy, but then I felt great. My body felt supported. Those
Yep.
small muscle fibers felt tight, and then I was able to train that night. But maybe if I just ignored that and trained hard and lifting and I trained that night, I probably would have, made the injury worse or hurt myself. So it's just like never letting anything get too bad through over exalting your body. And I think that's the most important thing in a training camp, is never going too hard nor too light, depending on how your body's feeling, because it's the consistency that is the biggest key of them all. That's the golden key, is just staying consistent, so that you can be consistently pushing decently hard, not pushing very, very hard and then nothing, pushing very, very hard and then nothing. 'Cause that's not how a
Mhm.
jiu-jitsu fight is. A jiu-jitsu fight is consistent. It's, a certain amount of time. It's not like, even MMA is consistent. But to be honest, MMA, you take a step back, you're filling out your opponent, you're bouncing around, then you're right back into it. Like jiu-jitsu,
Right.
as soon as you leave, you're hitting fighting again. Like you're always straight back on your opponent. Um, so treating training like you would in a fight, being consistent and not doing too much or too little. And I feel like that's the most important thing. But I'm still learning. I'm just learning from other
Yeah.
people's mistakes and my mistakes. So yeah. Oh, that's a big one too, learning from other people's mistakes. If you learn from someone
Especially
else's
in this sport.
mistake, yeah, then you're a-okay. Like my brother hurt his knee really bad at last ADCCs against Shininsky, and I learned that to tap to Aoki locks. So I'm just kidding. Um, I'm kidding. I
It's
learned how to do
when
physical therapy for a knee. So I started doing physical therapy on my knees to strengthen my knee, so now my knees never get injured. Before I was doing no physical therapy, and that could have been me next, maybe 5 months later. So it's like I learned, oh shoot, man, it's smart to do physical therapy on your knees. And William paid for a physical therapist and learned how to
yeah.
do it, and I was just here learning from his mistakes and money on how to strengthen my knees as well.
Yeah, it's interesting how jiu-jitsu it's a wild mix of effort, because so many people are coming into it as looking at it as their form of exercise, their form of resistance training, and because of family demands, work, all this understandable stuff that has to be respected, they don't dedicate time to correctives, to physical therapy, and to joint preparation, which is mind-blowing, because if
Yeah,
you think about jiu-jitsu, it's max hip flexion, max lumbar flexion and extension, max cervical flexion and extension, all performed by someone else acting on you, which is less predictable and more risky than you doing it to yourself. So the fact that
yeah,
people don't consider to do preventative stuff themselves, and sometimes because they don't know how, which is understandable, it takes time and money and expertise to get it. It's such a low-hanging fruit to preventable injuries, right? Like taking
yeah,
care of your knees, taking care of your ankles, taking care of your shoulders in ways that you just discussed, where it's small muscle groups, it's light resistance, using isometrics, using endurance. It can help you so much at a high level like you, and at a low level like a white belt who's does a day job but they want to stay safe. So
yeah,
it's
yeah. I
so
agree.
mandatory that people take care of it.
I completely agree. I am so what's the word? So of such a believer in physical therapy.
Yeah.
My back was bad. It was very bad. And if it wasn't for physical therapy, it still would be bad. It probably would be worse. But man, it's got so strong. I only feel it if after a really, really hard day of training and I'm like laying in bed and I can barely feel it, but man, it's like I'm still being consistent with it. Like I will have to be consistent with my back injury probably for the rest of my life. Um,
Yeah.
and because it's a very bad injury. And so I don't want to ever have a really bad injury like that again. Um, so, like my knees are great. I have very healthy knees. The only way my knees are getting hurt is if I just stop physical therapy and then they just have a traumatic experience. Um, but my shoulders are, my right shoulder is actually decently bad. I've dislocated it twice, but it was never like broken or anything. And it was just like it just, stretched the ligaments out when it came out. So I can't ever stop doing physical therapy on my shoulder or it will get worse. Like I have to build up my rear traps. I have to build up like my subscapula, like all of the areas that help hold my shoulder together and keep it strong. And since I'm doing that shoulder, I have to do this shoulder. So I know this shoulder will always be safe as well. So it's just like always having that prevention work mindset to where you never are like, dang it, now I have to take a year off or 6 months or 4 months off because I just had a traumatic experience.
I was going to ask you
yeah.
about just like some more technique stuff. Like, what is it about taking people's back and choking them that kind of fits so well with you? Like, just for people out there who don't get to take people's back and choke them out all the time. Like, and there's a lot of meta out there. People are leg lockers or they're arm bar people or something like that. But like, why are you a back taker? Why is that so cool?
Well, the one thing I like about taking the back is like I feel like I can I don't feel like bad in training. I think I'm like if I'm rolling with somebody that just doesn't take jiu-jitsu as seriously, like maybe a hobbyist, I would feel like sort of bad just like putting some, I don't know, blue belt after work inside heel hook. But like I don't feel bad ever like barrel-bowling the shit out of them because it's just fun for both people. Like everybody's having a great time. It's fine. But in all honesty, like I feel like getting to the back is like the ideal of jiu-jitsu. There's no position better than it. So like if you're always looking to like get to those dominant, like not even get to the back, but create those dominant angles where you're like behind somebody, it just like universally like puts you in a better position. So like when your mindset is like looking for the back, you just I feel like staying a step ahead positionally, if that makes sense. And yeah, it's just the best position to be in jiu-jitsu. So who doesn't want to be like just on the back?
Listen, as an expert in getting his back taken, I can agree with that. Getting boloed, it does make it a little fun. It's a lot more fun than just getting just heavy pressure put on you or something. It's like, oh, how'd this guy teleport back there? What are you doing? Come on. So yeah, I agree, Levi.
Everybody's having a good time.
Yeah, it's just a good time.
Everybody's having a good time with the bolos. But my favorite thing is for sure pressure passing. Like I love to feel like a little Merlot.
Yes, for sure, man.
Do my little tripod. That's like I think that's the thing I'm most proud of actually now, like is my passing, because the barambolas and stuff, they definitely came like pretty naturally to me. I was obviously a giant fan of the meows, but I also at the same time always wanted to be like one of those people that was just like so good at passing that could just like a Leandro,
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's taken me so many years like working, trying to figure it out, like years and years and years, and I've only just like I feel like really figured out like a really good passing system that sort of works for me and my style.
Obviously the training is a little bit, would you say it's different the way we train than the way you were training, let's say in Kite Cobrinas in Las Vegas?
It's a little different, especially before I moved to Austin. It was I was pretty much always training in the gi, like all the time. Maybe I do one no-gi class once a week or once in 2 weeks. But now I'm mostly training no-gi, but sometimes I train in the gi as well. But also we do a lot of positional rounds here, which I like. In Vegas, we'd usually do 5 or 4 or 5 rounds, open rounds only. And
just open rounds.
Yes, we maybe a couple times we did positional rounds, but not very often. But here it's I like the positional rounds because we get to focus on one position at a time and kind of submit from there and escape.
100%.
So
100%. So first off, you missed it, but Friday, John made us do seated versus standing. All rounds, seated versus standing. Grab your training partner, shake hands, and go. It was amazing. Like, I feel like I love positional training more than open rounds. I for real do, because yes, we're starting from a given position, but you tie all your game to these positions where we end up the most.
Yeah.
Right? Like turtle, it's not just turtle. There's half guard, there's side control. You get on someone's back, you get into leg entanglements. You learn how to chain all your game with these positions, right?
Yeah.
And then when something happens, now you got to reset. So there's not that dead time where now you're resting, where it's neutral, where it's slowed down. No, so the pace is very high.
Yeah.
That's what I hear from when people come and visit. They'll be like, man, the pace is so high. There's no breaks between the rounds.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. But I mean, I know a lot of people complain. Not really, not that much anymore. But I remember when we were in New York, we were in the blue basement. And then when John added more position rounds, I remember a lot of the guys were complaining, well, we got to roll, we got to do this or that. At first, for me, it's a change. You got to adapt. You got to get used to that new thing. But I feel like over the years, and still now, these same positions that we do, I'm still learning. I'm still figuring things out. My awareness with what's happening and like the problem solving from these positions is just way more in depth, is way more precise. And I feel like it's just a way more efficient way to train. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and especially when I'm doing the open round and like someone passes my guard or takes my back, it's a lot easier to know how to get out of those positions. Or if I take someone's back or get to mount, I can submit them a lot easier than before. Like I'd be a little confused like how to get out of a position. So it helps a lot kind of chaining those positional rounds into the open round.
If you had to change, if there's one thing you prefer more about the training you had in Las Vegas and the one you're having now in Austin, what would it be? If there's one thing, just one thing.
I like it. I like that we're doing right now a lot of like longer rounds.
Okay.
But maybe sometimes it would be fun to do maybe 3 or 4 shorter rounds. Rather than one long round, but I really like the positional training, and I don't think like I changed that. So maybe like instead of doing one 15-minute round, do 3 5-minute rounds sometimes.
Then you get different looks and things like that. Yeah. What about the music? I thought you were gonna say maybe if we could have music playing while we're training. I'm pissed you didn't say that, but yeah. What about that? Would you change that?
I'm fine with like not having music. All the other gyms I've trained at always had music, but I think it's just something that you need to get used to. It's different, but I'm still fine with that.
Yeah, I remember we've tried many times. It's not lack of trying, you know what I mean?
So what are some practices that you've used to help kind of auto-regulate some of your training when it comes to training on the mat? So that's something, one, I would highly advise that the athlete really talk to their coach, because essentially the coach is the one that's going to design the on-the-mat practice. And it's also a responsibility for the coach to kind of read the room and see where everybody's at in terms of like how recovered they are. And there's different ways to look at it. You could kind of generally tell when everybody's pretty smoked. But one of the ways you could do that on the mat, it was like having a smaller focus. Let's say we're playing a certain game. It's like maybe the game is to pass the guard fully, right? That's the win condition. Maybe if I'm pretty smoked, I'll focus on just holding a line, holding the inside position as long as I could, because sometimes those tasks are daunting and it's hard to do a complete task like that, especially like Wednesday or Thursday, it's been a long week of training and you're pretty smoked. But from the athlete's perspective, if the coach is not adjusting, that's what you could do. But I highly recommend like the coach and athlete talk, and then, you know, the coach can pull the levers like, all right, we're going to change the constraints of this game where it's not as taxing. We could change the time of the game, or how long it's going to take. We can make the time longer because when you increase time, intensity of exchanges tend to go down because there's a longer time. You could partner selection, you know, like you could go with someone that's lighter. You could go with someone that's less skilled, you know, and still get a good training session. So those are some of the things that you could do to kind of regulate your training, still get some mat time. But, you know, if you're feeling smoked, you could to make sure you're recovering for the next training cycle. So
I think those are all amazing pieces of advice. And I think it's been awesome to see just over the last few years as you and your teammates at Standard Jiu-Jitsu have been really just crushing it. It's been awesome to watch. It's been awesome to hear you guys and Greg talk about the constraints-led approach. Last question. This is just a fun one just for me.
Yeah.
What would you say are like your 3 favorite strength exercises? Even if they don't have like the greatest carryover to your jiu-jitsu training, you mentioned you were gangstering out on front squats.
Yeah.
What would you say, like, are you just your 3 favorite gym exercises that go nuts on?
Like, let's see. One of the, I found this one, Zercher lunge is a good one, because one I like because the split stance is pretty applicable, and then I just like Zerchering because it feels good. And another exercise, weighted chins.
Okay.
And then weighted dips. Like if I had to choose 3, and then those are the only 3 I could do. Like if I'm living, I'm gonna do some Zercher lower body variant, a weighted chin, and a weighted dip. Because I can never, like, if you're pressed for time, you're pressed for equipment, those hit all the things that you need, and then, you know, you get a good workout in, or get a good training session in.
That's going to talk about how to use instructional videos to get better at jiu-jitsu. Instructional videos are something that in the era of the internet have been very relevant in the sport of jiu-jitsu to learn technique, okay? And the unique thing about jiu-jitsu is that most of the sport is practiced by recreational practitioners, okay? Hobbyists, people that are very, very passionate about the sport. I'd say about 90 to 95%, probably even more, of the people that practice it either compete at an amateur or recreational level and practice the sport as a hobby primarily. And a very small select percentage are actually professional athletes. And so the great thing about that is because jiu-jitsu is such a small community, I mean, there's a ton of people that practice jiu-jitsu, but relatively speaking, it's small. You have access to a lot of very, very high-level people in the sport in terms of YouTube, like you guys are watching now. You have instructional content. You can go to seminars that host world champion athletes all the time. It's very easy to be able to learn from good people based on the resources that we have at hand. And so instructionals, especially in recent years, okay, because of BJJ Fanatics, has been a huge, huge outlet for athletes to be able to put their information out there. Essentially, they put their whole games out there. People can go, buy them, and then watch them. Okay. What I find is that a lot of times people don't use instructionals to the best of their ability. They don't leverage that information as best as they can. And so the reason why I'm making this video, as a person that does have instructional videos out as well on BJJ Fanatics, you guys can check out the links in the description. You have to be able to use that information, okay? You don't want to just have it sitting there. And a lot of people often, I feel that they watch videos a little bit and they either don't finish them or they don't use them. They don't take that information. They don't translate it to the mat. I'm just going to give you guys a couple of strategies as to how to, one, pick good instructional videos and how to find the best ones for you, as well as how to use the instructionals to the best of your ability, okay? Because it is a resource that a lot of people use. I'm sure a lot of you people watching either have my instructionals and punch a bunch of other people's instructionals. And so I want you guys to be able to use that resource to the best of your ability, okay? The first thing that I would say that you got to keep in mind is to do your homework. Okay. Do your homework on whoever you're purchasing the instructional from. That's either being the website that you're buying it from and the instructor that you're buying it from. And this goes to watching YouTube content as well. Okay. If you're just going on YouTube and just taking in any information that you see, it's not always going to be the best information. You want to make sure that you do your homework on who it is that you're learning from, especially when you're spending money on it. Okay. So if you're going to buy an instructional video, you're putting your money down to actually learn information. You want to make sure that you're getting good information. So do your homework. Who is this person? What are their accolades? They don't always have to be a competitor. Being a competitor doesn't necessarily mean you're a good coach. We'll talk about that in a second.
but you want to make sure that they're a good instructor. Good way to do this, you can just go on YouTube, type the person's name, go on Google, type the person's name, and see what comes up. You know, what are their accolades? Who did they learn from? Where did they get their belts from? Watch a couple of videos. Oftentimes people that have instructionals, they'll have trailers or previews of the videos on the website. Okay, so I know BJJ Fanatics does that. They have a trailer. They always have free clips that they post of the video so you can preview it prior to purchasing it. So make sure you do that. Make sure it's somebody that articulates the information well and that you're understanding what it is that they're saying. So that's number one. You're using it as an educational resource. You want to make sure that you can actually understand what it is that you're trying to learn. So do your homework on the instructor. Make sure that you're learning from somebody who's credible. Make sure you're learning from somebody who has a good reputation as an instructor. In addition to that, we'll add in, choose a topic that suits you. So you want to make sure that you're choosing a topic that is going to suit you at that particular moment in time. You can buy all the instructional videos you want, but ultimately you're going to have to focus on one of them at a time. You can't watch 20 videos at a time. I mean, you can, okay, but it takes a lot of time to actually be able to learn from those instructional videos. Okay, you have to spend time actually watching it and then go in and take that and apply it on the mat. So it's usually a process that takes a little bit of time. And so when you're choosing a topic, make sure you're choosing a topic that's relevant to where you are in your progression of the sport. If you're a complete beginner, generally I recommend focusing on more defensive topics, how to escape from pins, how to retain guard, how to do things that are a little bit more fundamental to make sure that you're refining that fundamental aspect of your game. If you've only been training jiu-jitsu for 3 to 6 months, unless you're a complete phenom, and then you buy a video that's all about, you know, barambolos and stuff that, you know, you've never even seen or heard of before, it's going to be difficult for you to make the progress that you need to. Okay, and so you want to typically, it's an extreme example, but it's typically you want to choose a topic that's suitable for you at the time. So think about something that maybe you want to work on. Think about something that you maybe have trouble with. You can ask your instructor what you think that you should be working on. And based on what he or she tells you, choose a topic that you think is going to be suitable for you. Okay. Another thing that's very important once you actually choose the video is you want to work incrementally. The reason being is that if you watch an 8-hour instructional video in one sitting, the amount of information that you're going to retain is going to be very slim. But if you watch 30 to 45 minutes to an hour every night or every other night, you'll be able to pick up at least 1 or 2 things from that video. Let's say you watch it right before bed, you're going to remember that, okay, a lot better than you would if you watched 3-4 hours, you had it on in the background while you're cooking or whatever, or you're doing whatever. So when you're watching the video, make sure you're paying attention, and it's better to watch a little bit every day than to watch a whole bunch in one time. Forget half the stuff or more that you watched and then not watch it for another week or 2. So set aside a time that you can work through it incrementally. In addition to this, I would say consistently. Do it little by little, and ultimately that will lead to you being able to watch. If you watch 30 minutes or an hour a day, if it's an 8-hour video or a 6-hour video in the course of a week's time, you'll have finished the video, a week or week and a half or whatever the case is. So working incrementally through it, working consistently. That way, when you actually take that little bit of information, you can go to the gym the very next day. You can actually try to drill those moves. You can actually try to apply them in sparring. And so you want to take a small bit of information, absorb it, and then look to apply it. And that way you can convert that knowledge into a skill. Another thing that's very good about instructional videos that I think is often overlooked is that you can revisit the topic. Revisit the topic, and you can also revisit sections. So say, for example, you're working a video that is on, I don't know, back attacks. You can work on a segment of it, go through, apply that technique. You work through that segment, you went to training, you worked on that stuff in training, you moved on to the next segment, moved on to the next segment after that, and all of a sudden you start running into problems in the gym that were based around something that you saw 2 or 3 nights ago or whatever the case is. You can always go back and revisit that. And so that way you constantly have a point of reference where you can go back and remind yourself. You have the resource forever. Okay, and so you should continue to revisit those topics as time goes on, whether that's on a video that you're currently working on, or maybe it's on a video that you saw 6 months or a year ago. You can always go back and revisit that topic. So that's something very good about instructionals, that you can revisit the topic and you can use that as a resource throughout your entire life. You typically have the videos forever. Doing your homework, choosing a good topic, working incrementally and consistently through the topic, and then revisiting topics and sections. Very, very good way to use the instructional videos. And lastly, what I would say is use the video as a supplement to your training. Okay, this I think is the most important thing. You don't want to be that guy that just watches instructional videos, okay, and goes to the gym once a week. Yeah, you own every single instructional, whether it's Danaher, Gordon, all the very best guys, but if you never actually put the mat time in, you're wasting that valuable information, okay, and other people are using it and they're getting better. So you get very, very good information from very good instructors, but if you don't actually use that as a supplement to your training, it's the same thing as saying, okay, you take a bunch of creatine, protein powder, steroids, whatever, and you never go to the gym. You just sit on your couch and you watch TV. It's the exact same thing. You want to take this information, you want to supplement it with the number one thing being mat time. Okay, you need to add mat time. Okay, so this is just a supplement to mat time. Okay, the most important thing is that you spend time on the mat, then you take the information that you learn, you convert that information into skills, and that's how you become a better grappler. These are just some ways that you can use instructional videos. You can use that resource and leverage it to the best of your ability to ultimately make yourself a better grappler. Use instructional videos as a supplement to your mat time. You work incrementally through it. You work consistently through it. You revisit topics and sections. You constantly revisit them to refresh yourself on that information and make sure that you're learning from somebody credible. There's a ton of great instructors out there. There's a ton of great instructional videos out there. I have instructional videos. My teammates all have instructional videos. My coach has instructional videos. You guys probably already own all those. It's truly, truly good information, but I want you guys to be able to use that information to the best of your ability, okay? Use it as a supplement to your training, and remember that the most important thing is the time that you spend on the mat. You want to convert that knowledge into skill and then ultimately make yourself a better grappler.
Game or round around this. And so this is kind of like the approach, I think, like the ecological people take, as well as like Robert Ecke.
I love the idea of games and specific training to sharpen skills, man. That really is, I think, in my own training, something that I really enjoy and something that really seems to help me. What's an example of a game that you'll play on the mats, and why do you feel it's such an effective way to practice?
So, there are quite a few that I like to play. I think the first game that I was taught and that really stuck with me was this game. In Mandarin, it translates to like Crazy Turtle. So it's just fun names, right? But
how do you say that in Mandarin? I have to hear it in Mandarin. How do you say it?
疯狂乌龟. So
okay.
Yeah. So it's just like basically you start in a side pin position. However, you're not allowed for chest to chest. However, the person on bottom is looking at the turtle. So what this creates is a situation where the person on top has to keep someone pinned that not only wants to regard, but wants to like specifically turtle, but they're not allowed to use their chest. And I would find that this creates a situation where you're used to think about like frames, levers, and wedges more critically, as opposed to just putting your weight and just like, because a cross-face underhook with chest to chest is actually quite hard to escape. If you put someone good, it's quite tough. So putting that handicap on the top player actually encourages like a lot of thought from both sides. Usually initially the person on bottom gets out pretty quickly, but once the person on top gets more experience and starts thinking about this position a little bit more, they actually can take a lot of steps to make it very difficult, because instead of thinking about it, okay, I'm just going to try hold you really tight, they think about, okay, what is actually enabling you to turtle? So for example, like, okay, maybe I can try wedge the far shoulder, so by putting my fist underneath the far shoulder. Or maybe I can put my shin over the near bicep and make him unable to turn in one direction, but now he can turn the other way, so what can I do to act accordingly? And then you can think about the hips, the legs, the head, and so on and so on. And I feel like having that handicap of just, okay, you can't put chest pressure, now really gives you the option of, okay, now what can I do with all these other things?
That sounds
so. That's just like one example that I thought was like very useful. And there's like, you can basically, as long as you have a idea or a desired, like what you want someone to do, you can design around like all of these things. Like something like I've been doing recently, just for the context of like ADCC, right, is having someone start in guard and a person on top, and just tell the person in guard to stand up, and the person on top is forced to hold someone down. And you get to think of different mechanisms in which you are able to hold someone down, and then you can outline these, and then people can think about them more. And I find that it enables it almost forces people to think a little bit more about problems in which you might not have thought of in an open round where everything is allowed and so on.
That's great, man. That's really awesome. I really like that. Let me ask you this: for people out there that want to start applying games to their own training, but maybe the structure of their academy they train in just doesn't offer things like that, are there any games that you play where the other person's not aware they're part of your game? Like, are there things that you're just in your own world trying to do, and you know, with a participant that might not be aware of what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely harder to do, but definitely possible. I think. Owen, like for example, like Bernanke's "Fuck Your Jiu-Jitsu." I think he stole this from Ryan Hall. Where Ryan Hall, I remember him saying that he saw Ryan Hall just like kind of like dancing on someone, where he was just like almost just like a gargoyle on their turtle, and like in a way he thought it was like disrespecting their jiu-jitsu. So approaching someone's jiu-jitsu in the sense where you're gonna let them get everything they want, but not let them do it successfully. So you can approach this from different perspectives, but from top, for example, a good example of "Fuck Your Jiu-Jitsu" would be like, I just engage as deeply in your guard as I possibly can and just not let you get any offense going. However, there are issues to this because obviously if you're not communicating that's a game, let's say I fuck up and get swept, then I can't really reset. And so there are problems to this. But you can do things like that, and similarly with guard retention, where if you were to want to play a game focusing just on your guard retention, you can play a game where you basically don't attack your partner from guard and you just work on your guard retention. As opposed to, I find a lot of people, they almost disguise their weakness in guard retention with guard offense, where sometimes people have places where they're very comfortable in guard that they don't necessarily, if they're good at getting there and they're good at playing the position, it's not necessarily often in which they're not able to get there. So practicing the stuff outside of that is not necessarily very common. So sometimes people have weaknesses the moment you get them outside of their guard of choice. And I think this is something that one can choose to play. But obviously, because it's not necessarily mutually consensual, that if you fail the round, then you don't necessarily have the ability to reset. But this is one way I do this a fair bit if I'm just like cross training or something like this.
Yeah, that's outstanding, man. I love what you said there too about the tendency people have to mask their weaknesses with kind of their stronger points. And I know I've certainly been guilty of that myself. In fact, when you mentioned guard retention, that was the primary thing that I would focus a lot on my offense to hide the fact that my retention was trash. So, and I eventually doubled down and started focusing on my retention, which I'm glad I did. But you know, speaking of focusing on weaker areas and trying to sharpen things, something that was revolutionary for me in my own progress is when I started keeping a training journal and actually like physically logging things that I was learning and not just relying on my memory to keep track of everything. How do you typically catalog your own knowledge and track your own progress?
Yeah, so that's actually quite funny because I actually started keeping a training journal from listening to you talk about this, and I eventually changed it a little bit where like I actually have a few books of my training because I would basically just write down everything I learned in class. But at this point, I've kind of adapted it. I think I have like 3 or 4 notebooks full of this. But I eventually adapted this, especially because I find it's more important for me. Like, so for example, I'll just like describe what I do, where I kind of write down what are my thoughts and certain conclusions that I've come to from my own training and trying to derive information from training and not necessarily from instruction. Because what I find is sometimes like if I were to derive something directly from instruction, I don't have the first-hand experience that really makes it stick per se. Whereas if I have something from training and I've like experienced it and it feels like there's something there, and that can often come from me watching an instructional, then I write it down. But I'm not going to watch an instructional and just write it down without having experienced it per se, because I find that there's too much disconnect there for me to actually be able to use any of it. Often what I'll do is I'll screen record an instructional, and before I like not the whole instructional obviously, but certain portions that I really want to revisit, And then before I'm training or whilst I'm training, I'll review these and I'll like look through them and I'm like, okay, let me try play around with this and so on and so on. And then if I'm able to derive anything from that, then I'll write it down in my notes. And so this is how I've kind of used it in more recently per se.
That's awesome. Well, man, I'm flattered that you started doing that by listening to me, man. That's really cool. Yeah, I actually have to give credit where credit's due. Rafael Lovato Jr., my interview that I did with him, my second one that I did with him, is when I realized he was talking about the importance of keeping a journal, and he's like, I don't see how someone could go through the motions of jiu-jitsu and expect to remember everything in this really complex art. And I started thinking to myself, like, dude, no wonder, like, when I'll come across a move and I'll remember that I learned it like 6 years ago and just totally forgot about it, so that made me realize I do have to start writing things down. Once I started doing it, I'm like, dude, how did I only start doing this as a purple belt? Like, what? Oh my God, all the lost years, that I could have had data and I just let it fall through my fingers. I also found that keeping a training journal also helped me approach future training sessions with more intent. Like, it helped me form goals and identify specific things I wanted to improve on. What are your thoughts on entering training with intent and purpose rather than just going through the motions? Like, do you typically have like a really well-defined list of things you're trying to do every session when you arrive to training?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think it's very important to have intent when training. There are times where I will because I feel like intent is very important in terms of progression, but sometimes I find that if I'm too rigorous with my intent, sometimes I get a little bored. I'm like, okay, I want to explore other things. So I do give myself the freedom to explore other things, whether it be I will practice things that so what I've been working on, this is something I will practice, but then I'll also leave time where I can practice other things that might not necessarily have been on my radar. So, like, for example, for today, my friend showed me a very interesting guard pass that he learned from an instructional that just came out. And this wasn't part of what I had planned on working on, but I worked on it regardless because I thought it was very interesting. And so it's kind of a mix between the two, but I definitely think, like, most of the time I have something that I'm trying to work on. There are times where I try to, especially now I'm not really competing as much. I find that I do have the luxury of just being able to take a lot of information. But when it comes to competing and when it's more competition season, then it becomes more refined and less, okay, I'm going to work on certain things. It's more, I'm going to work on my game as a whole and so on and so on.
That makes perfect sense. Do you typically study people that you know that you're going to be competing against, or do you prefer to just hyper-focus on your own game? Because I know for some people it psychs them out if they're just doing nothing but watching tape of people they're going to go up against, and for others they find it to be very valuable. How does that fall for you usually?
So I found actually a very good way around this where I like watching tape, but not of people I'm going to fight, because in situations like these, I don't feel like I can look at it very objectively. I kind of get in my head a little bit too much. So I have my friend who's like functionally my coach now, Dima, look at the tape for me and make notes for me from that tape. So it works well, so I don't really psych myself out, and he can just tell me, because I trust him very much to tell me what's important, tell me what they do, what I should do, and so on and so on, because he also has a good understanding of my game and can look at my game very well. So it's very good for me in this sense. Like, he's been a great help for me, because otherwise watching tape of my opponents, it gets a little bit too difficult.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than like sitting and watching like a highlight reel of someone you're going to compete against. It's like only like 5 minutes of them just being amazing.
It's even worse when you're in the highlight reel.
Yeah, exactly.
This is literally what happened. I'm like, I don't need to watch this again.
Yeah, it's like, dude, just delete this. I'm not going to,
Shout out to Mateusz Jasinski.
And there you go. Dude, we've all got one, man, for sure. I'm almost sure I've been in some highlight reels of other people myself, man, for sure. In fact, one I know I have. I got caught with a flying submission as a blue belt, and I was just like, oh man, I'm just gonna close my social media for a little while. Yeah, I'll come back later. You said that one thing you like to absorb is instructionals, and that they've helped you a lot in your journey, and I can definitely relate to that too. I like what you said is that you take them. It seems like you take instructionals in chunks. Like you'll record segments and sections of the instructional that are really important to you and things that you want to focus on. How do you typically absorb the knowledge from the instructionals once you've done that? Like, do you catalog them in a certain way? Do you like what do you do with those chunks once you've taken them?
So generally, I don't necessarily catalog them, but I do have a fairly good memory in regards to where it's distributed amongst my camera roll. So
nice. That's a
I
struggle,
find that
yeah.
I've actually had fairly good success. Like I've actually found clips from 2 years ago, like pretty quickly, that I just remember. Oh, I remember seeing this like from some Atos training footage on Flow Grappling. like literally this happened the other day, like from a year and a half ago. I'm like, oh, I've seen Kaizen do that, and then I found it, and so I think like I haven't had too much issues with needing to catalog it, but something actually I do think it might be a good idea, just having it in certain folders, because my friend Dima, he does this, and I've wanted to do it, but it might have been partially out of laziness not having done it, but also maybe I don't know. I think it's not necessarily a bad idea, but personally I haven't really formatted it like this. I used to actually have an Instagram account just for uploading my tape study, but it has been a few years since I've updated it.
That's awesome. Well, dude, I'm jealous of your brain, dude. That shows a stark difference between your brain and mine, that you can find something from 2 years ago just like that. If I don't have a folder, man, it's as good as gone. So that's that is awesome. That
Only with Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing else. Only with Jiu-Jitsu. I think most of my brain capacity has been like purely dedicated to jiu-jitsu, because I'm mostly dysfunctional in other parts of my life.
Dude, that is so common though. I'm not gonna throw any of my friends under the bus, but I got a few people I can think of where it's like, dude, everything in jiu-jitsu is great. Everything outside, it's like, dude, they're delinquent on 100 bills. They're like, they missed a sentence, they missed a flight. They can't make travel arrangements on time. It's like, dude, how are you this functional in this realm of our little jiu-jitsu world, and everything else is just chaos? But that is cool though, man. I like that.
What is the language that you guys use? Since you guys don't actually, there has to be a communal language, for coaching or for a team to discuss ideas. Like, yeah, go on.
I'm sorry. I'll give you my idea of what I started with, and then maybe DS some perspective on this. But the first thing I asked myself is, how can I discuss jiu-jitsu without discussing jiu-jitsu? How do we talk to humans about doing human things to other humans?
You're constraining yourself.
Right.
I should have known.
No, I was. So like, think about it. If I have to, give a song and dance to a beginner outside of the rules of the game, what the hell do I know about what I'm doing? Right? So they have to know the rules of the game, what we're trying to accomplish, what the game is about, like why we do one thing or another. But we can get them started right away doing things that are going to build skill without the long explanations of why they exist. And that seems to work pretty well. It doesn't seem to be necessary at all, or it hasn't been for me in the last 8 years. But either way, if they want to know about it, of course we can talk about things. But either way, the language we use is just direct enough and specific enough to get them moving in ways that we know will create the skills that let jiu-jitsu happen.
Yeah, there's like no crazy move names. Imagine you took somebody off the street, first day of jiu-jitsu, and you just threw them with a bunch of information about these names of moves. They may not even be grappling when they go live. They may just try to remember what you said, But if you use like simple cue, like pick his foot up or keep his hips down, it gets them playing the game right away, the actual game, not the remembering of the sequence of move or a name of a move. You know what I'm saying?
I have a question. So like for us, say I see Nicky Rod or Ethan on the back, I might yell out arm switch, but you guys don't, because that in our minds we say that as a technique. But what would you guys say in a scenario like that?
Use your other arm. But the thing is, like you were saying, and we were talking about this earlier in the trainings, like, as long as that language is common amongst your guys, that's what's most important.
For sure.
For us, we try to keep it simple as possible. One, it helps with cornering. Like you're not going through a dissertation in the corner. You're telling them, get them down, get to their hips, remove what's in front. Or in your case, arm switch, or
So what do you guys use? Like, what do you guys use? For example, like an arm switch, or say, we would say if he was in, we'll say we call it like a 3/4 Jujigatame or something like that, and I see an opportunity for an ankle senkaku. These are all like
nomenclature.
Nomenclature.
Yeah.
Right? The nomenclature. How do you guys communicate to each other as coach and athlete?
condition and effect. So when we first start training him for something, we give him a set of conditions that we want him to perform, and we give language that's external to himself. He can see what condition. So an example would be something like, in this game, we're going to keep both of our legs in between our partner's legs for as long as you can. I'm just giving you a random
Inside
one.
position.
Inside position. So then when he's at the tournament, you like, keep your feet inside, clear the feet, cross the leg, lift the heel, like basic shit.
No, for sure. I totally understand that part. I guess when we go further into different submission opportunities, how do you guys highlight maybe there's an opportunity for an ankle senkaku, or there's an opportunity for different
we probably would describe, instead of just the technique as a whole, the precursory conditions for like a technique, like let's say triangle, right?
Like if you want to switch from an armbar to a triangle,
exactly
right.
How do you?
He'll literally get your legs involved, or armbar to a triangle, or arm in, arm out. He'll say trap the head and arm, or something like that. The coaching is more the conditions of what is required for that.
Interesting.
As opposed to saying switch to armbar, switch to triangle. If he told me, I'll probably understand what that is. But beginner guys like, all right, trap the head, or heavy, keep the head on the ground, for example. Those are conditions needed for switching to triangle to armbar.
Anyone who walks in day one will understand, like, put his head on the ground. That's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
That's just the language we like to use. But like you said, if you're coaching Ethan and Ethan knows what you mean, it's effective.
We speak in Morse code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have now. I agree again with the skill acquisition part of CLA. Do you think that's the best way to relay information to an athlete at the point of time? So it's like where I might say ankle senkaku, he immediately knows that that's available, and that's a quick way to directly impart information to him.
But that was developed in the room, though. You know what I'm saying? That was that information there. You're not gonna tell him something that he's never seen before, right before he steps on the mat. You're only gonna talk to him about stuff like you guys developed in the room. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I understand. Because
I know what that means, or Nicky Rod knows what that means. Whereas they have their language and they know what they're going for.
It's that coach-athlete relationship again. It's like that's the art of coaching, and I haven't really delved too much into that. He'll probably, but that's what I feel. I'm confident he's not gonna tell me something right before I step on an important match and be like, he knows he'll either be quiet or tell me things that are things I understand that we developed in the room, and then I could easily implement. Whatever that looks like, and it's different for each team. Like the 10 Planet guys, they understand all those things that those guys are saying because they developed it in their room. I guess I don't know, but
trained really hard all the time. But
what was your schedule like when you were a kid? Did you just train 5-6 days a week?
Yeah, but our training was obviously because we didn't have like a full-time jiu-jitsu gym then, so we could only train evenings. So it'd be like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday would come in and do a bit of drilling because we could just like have the mat space in the corner while karate was on, because it was in like a Rex Kwon Do gym.
Yeah,
we were like having the space there for the first good few years of my training. So we'd come in and do some drilling. That's when speed drills were king. So you're doing the Galval speed drills, the leg drag side to side. For waste of time, like, on a Wednesday evening. Then Thursday we'd have training again. Then Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Oh no, Saturday morning we'd have training too. Then Friday, Sunday would be off. And it would just be evening because I had school and stuff. And then obviously when we got a full-time gym, we could train more. But it's only like the last few years where I've managed to train good sessions, like morning, night, have weights as well.
Do you hit the instructionals? Did you watch matches?
Yeah, I always watched loads of jiu-jitsu, even from the start. Like watched loads of matches, more than instructionals. I watched loads of matches. Now I watch more instructionals, I'd say, as well as matches. But I mean, I just watch instructionals as well.
Do you do Jozef, Chen? Do you do 2x speed, all that?
No, actually, I don't. I probably should, but no. Just watch for it.
I got one. I got two actually on the same subject. How did you get good at leg locks so fast?
Well, I always had a good foot lock, like straight foot lock. I always did them when I was like a blue belt and stuff. But then
get into that mic, Chief.
Oh, sorry, fella. Is it that bad? Are they not sensitive at all?
It just freaks me out.
I think you'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think
it's more about where you face.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I had a good straight foot lock when I was a blue belt. I remember that's all I did. And then when I got to purple belt, people just started defending. So instead of developing it more, I just gave up on it. I just did stop doing it. I was just like, yeah, it's shit, it just don't work. I was like, just don't work. In the gi, it's hard to straight foot lock, I think, because when they can grab double lapels on you.
Okay.
And I was just like, mate, this is shit. So I stopped doing it. But I always had like a decent, I'd say semi-decent attacking leg locks. Not like super sophisticated, but I could get a leg and rip it on. But I had zero leg lock defense.
Yeah.
Like, you know. When we fought many times, and you just put me in a leg lock, and I'd just look at him like I had no clue what to do. I just tap, like before it's even on, just tap. I just didn't know what to do. So it's just like I had like zero, because no one in my team did leg locks to like a good level. Do you know what I mean? So I had like no one put me in saddle and like proper sophisticated leg locking exchanges. I never had that. And then I thought, right, when I decided to switch to no-gi, I was like, that's the main problem I have. Like, it's not very often in training where I'd get past, like, dominated, mounted, my back taken and tapped. Do you know what I mean? It'd be very rare that happens. It's not like that was like a massive issue for me. It was like I would be getting caught in leg locks in training and in competition. Like, most of my no-gi losses, I think only, I don't want to quote this, because I may be wrong, but only to memory. The only times I can remember being submitted no-gi without a leg lock was Hinger, when he anacondaed me before. I can't even remember. All the rest of them have been leg locks, I think, like heel hooks.
Yeah.
That's to memory anyway. So I was like, right, that's obviously a proper problem I need to fix. So I like hyper-fixated on them, watched loads of instructionals, kept putting myself there in training, and like really just hyper-fixated on them for like a year, basically. And now I'd say they're all right, but they're not great. They're not as good as what people think, I would say.
Yeah.
I think they're all right, obviously, but they're not, they could definitely be way better. I'd say, how good can you get really in a year? It's just, I think, Peter, that, like I said, I was just exposing a lot of people's weaknesses in trials.
Yeah. When you say hyper-focus, you were like asking people lots of questions, instructionals, watching lots of shit?
Constantly, and watching loads of shit. Just doing leg locks in training, starting in leg locks every training, attacking, defending, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I wanted to be confident there. And I feel like, now, to be fair, I feel like they're all right. I do leg lock quite a lot of people in training who are hard to leg lock. So I definitely think they're all right, but they could be better. Yeah. But I just fully focused on that. I watched a lot of instructionals. Watching a lot of Rao, Owens. Little Owen helped me a lot.
Young Wesley.
Yeah, he helped me a lot with
that.
Yeah, I had to do it. But it really helped. To be honest, I didn't expect to leg lock everyone at trials, but that was my focus going in. I thought, right, I'm just going to try and pull guard. And I knew if I could get to my position, I could probably catch people. Because what do you think about the inside dash shit? I think it's
very hard. Tried to find an escape to it for a long time, and I figured something out that's like decent. Basically, get to standing and then do like a kind of like pop and try and shuck your knee free.
That's what. Would you not try and rip them to outside dash and escape from there? Like,
you can try to roll through and go toe hold, but the problem is the toe is on your ass, so the foot's just stuck
So
there.
what about if you before they get the foot on the near butt cheek? If it's on the far one, would you try as they try to dig? That's kind of how I thought getting out of it. Like.
I would just sit back into them and stand up if it's on the far hip. The problem is like most people try to run away and then you can't put weight on your leg.
That's what everyone did to me, which is wrong. Everyone freaks out when they're there. They try and run away and they just give you the deepest outside heel hook you can get, basically.
You have to like pressure in, scoot around the corner and pummel your leg free in that. But when it's inside, actually, it's pretty fucked. Like, I think you should roll the way that they have your leg. So the same side they have your leg. Backwards, walk your hands to standing. And then from standing, as they tip you over with the reap, you try and like pop your knee free and go. That's the only way that I found escapes, like, to some extent.
Yeah, but I found that particular position, a lot of people are not very good at defending. And I got
hard.
good at that. I got good at getting to saddle, switching to that, and that's basically what I just did to everyone. Yeah, because when I was training with people who are good people, I was catching them like that every time. And I was like, oh, man, I don't think people... I don't know, I think you're going to see it a lot used more now, just because it's...
Inside Ashy.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people aren't good. Not the one we have the toe on the same side hip, on the far hip. I feel like some people still don't really do that properly, in that they like pull their knee to their chest instead of extending their legs away, and then people can just like run away.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Hopefully they stay shit at it.
Yeah.
And keep exploiting it.
Keep them shit.
Because people are so good at defending saddle now, it is hard to finish good people in saddle, innit? Especially when they're just like running away. And
Shashinsky showed me some nice stuff there. Like the
same
up
here.
and
He's good at
extending.
finishing from saddle.
He's very good. All
good
around.
Good at finishing from everywhere, to be fair.
On slippy mats, that would be a fucking nightmare.
You said you drill. Do you have... Like, are you working on certain skills, or you just drill whatever? Like, how do you structure your training, or does Will usually do it? Like, what do you guys doing?
So I like to just like focus on what I need to get better on. Like, you know, how am I going to beat like the best guys in the world in my weight class?
And it's like,
so what do you think that is?
It's like the best dudes are like the Ruotolos, Mika, Dante, and all of them, and being on top of them and breaking them on top is like the way to beat those guys. And so I just work a lot of like submission defense while passing, and a lot of like takedowns, you know, and not so much like because when I was doing a bunch of ADCCs, it was like takedown to get their back on the ground because we couldn't get points with the knees on the ground. So now I'm looking to do takedowns to their knees so I can like take their back. So it's like it's switched a little bit, but still the same.
So you use a cool like hybrid of passing. I mean, I guess Dima calls it rumble passing, whatever.
Yeah.
How did you start developing this? Did you learn it from somewhere? Did you see it somewhere? Or?
Well, I've been so fortunate just to be like I'm kind of low key retarded, like in like some
all of us. We're in there. We're right there with you, bro.
You're on the Simple Man podcast.
But it's like I've figured everything out by just purely just like messing with them. I'm like, wow, that feels like that would work, and then I just keep doing it. I'm like, oh, this actually works. Like I was like drilling yesterday, and I was going over like hand fighting from the back, like how to get to chokes, and I like made up something that I've never seen before, and I was like, bro, this is like sick. I just started like drilling it, and I like hit it in the roll, hit another roll, and I was like, oh, this works.
Pretty sick. Competing for 1 million, I would actually take that very seriously. You know,
it's life changing, isn't it? It's life changing.
Because even the ADCC camp, it was only like I stopped drinking like 3 weeks out of the camp. You know, like so like for like 6 weeks, for like the first 3 weeks of the camp, we were still going out, you know, enjoying it, and like I wasn't fully locked in, you know. But for 1 million, I think. I can drop everything. I can lock in for 6 weeks. You know, I can get the prep down. I think because 1 million will change. Because even if I won ADCC, you know, like it doesn't necessarily mean everything's gonna change. Like you can still, you can still struggle to get things. Obviously, luckily I didn't. But like, I think it depends how you win as well. You know, like I know like Bodoni's won ADCC twice, and it's like your ability to sell out a seminar compared to like I reckon Jay will probably sell out a seminar more than Bodoni just because of
100%.
Personality and like influence on social media, how he wins, how entertaining his matches are, you know? I think this was a big factor with my performance that I got, I guess, lucky with, but also, I guess it's my style is the fact that most of my matches were entertaining. The 2 matches, it was like, I wasn't trying to stall and win on advantages. It was more, go out, try and sub the guy. If I sub the guy, great. If I get subbed, you get caught.
Yeah.
You move on, you know?
Yeah, and Jay's exactly the same, isn't he? Just all or nothing. Literally all or
just
nothing.
Scrap.
Just scrap and see what happens, really.
Yeah, he got so much better in the 3-month camp. It was unbelievable. But the first day I got there, I was like, yeah, this guy's going to lose first round. And then I trained with him the week before ADCC, and I was like, right, he is a problem. He was passing out my guard. I was like, I can't do nothing to him. I can't keep a hold of him. His legs are so slippery. He's just getting out past my guard easy. I'm like, yeah, this is not fun. But he improved a lot. I reckon through the camp, I think everyone made improvements, but he probably made the biggest jump. Because he has the most to learn, you know? He still doesn't know jiu-jitsu like that much, you know? Like he's obviously very good and naturally moves very well, but his technical knowledge isn't amazing. So like Dima's just giving him basic information of things that he needs to do to avoid getting entangled, and he's just able to put it into effect immediately because natural ability, you know? He's got that Rodriguez genetics.
You forget as well, he's only been training, what, 3-4 years?
I think something like that, yeah.
It's like, no, it's nothing, is it?
Yeah,
it's literally nothing, is it? You know what I mean?
But to be fair, most of the guys, I think now, I know Taylor talks about this as well, like it's much easier to get better now, you know? There's way more 100%. Avenues to get better, you know? Like even like Josef's only been training 6 years, I've been training 7 years, Jay's been training 4. Plenty of guys have only been training for like short amounts of time, have got a very good. And there's also the opposite of people who've been training for like 20 plus years and still at the top of the game, you know? Doing
I thought you were going to say 20 years is still shit.
This is also the case, right? Like you're either good at jiu-jitsu or you're not. I think this is also an important factor, right? It's the same as anything. I think people love to like kind of factor it differently, you know? People that say, oh, but jiu-jitsu is different. Like it's not. It's the same as every other sport. You're not going to watch an NFL guy or a rugby player or a football player and go, anyone can be like that. Because they can't, you know? Not anyone can be Messi. You can train as much 100%. As you want. Brother, it's not possible.
I've said this so many times.
You can't do it.
You can play football your whole life and still be shit when you're 20, 21. You know, there's people that don't even play a semi-pro standard and they played their whole life. It's the same with jiu-jitsu. You can get people that, like you said, 3 or 4 years can be really good. And then, they're really good and they can go on to do great things. Well, there's people who've trained 15 years dedicated and still not even reach like a good standard
because
nationally.
It's like, I think it's just like, well, even people who are juicing, some people juice and they still suck. I think it's just like, if it comes to you, then like, I feel like when I was young, like people can attest to it. It was like, I get shown something and I could apply it quite quick. But this was the thing for me in most sports, you know. And I think jiu-jitsu was just enhanced because, I don't know, naturally it came naturally to me, you know. The same thing with Jozef, you know. If I show something, obviously he's different now because he knows jiu-jitsu very well, but I show him something. Jay's probably a better example, you know. We show him something, he can immediately apply it. Whereas I'll show other people things, like in my classes and stuff like that, and it takes them 3, 4, 5, 6 times of drilling it and doing it on multiple sessions for it to then keep it in their mind and then to apply it in a round, you know? I think the ability to just like make decisions under pressure and stuff like this. I was talking with this with my dad the other day, actually. That's like your ability to make decisions under pressure and react to what the person's doing. Because people say jiu-jitsu is like chess, you know? But then it's like, it's not, because I can take 5 turns in a row, partial guard, mount you, take your back, and you've had no goes. And I've just checkmated you. It's like, so it can be very one-sided, you know? So it's like, it's about if you can keep up with the pace of like making decisions and your ability to make decisions in the moment, you know?
It's definitely decision making and reaction times. I think that's the 2 key things. It's, you know, if you think of when someone's fast like you and you're passing my guard, if I don't react quick enough, you're passed. That's it. It's as simple as that.
For sure, right? I think those are the 2 things, reaction times and like your ability to kind of like see things. And then the other attributes come in like speed, strength, and like then technique also comes into perspective towards the end, you know?
Yeah, I think some of those physical attributes definitely play into like the mental attributes as well. Like if you look at any elite sport and you look at sort of poor decision making, it's normally around sort of fatigue. So if someone's not in great shape and they're knackered, they're going to make poor decisions, even if they are clever. And I think also sort of flexibility and mobility is a massive factor in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, but like there are people who are also super stiff.
Yeah.
Like Kaizen Way is not very flexible.
Yeah.
And he double gold with ADCC, you know? But he is big.
Yeah.
Juicy. You know? He's just folding people in half and just crushing them, you know? And there's like other people like Mikey who are just ridiculously small but hyper flexible, you know? I think they're all spectrums. It's just if you can make your jiu-jitsu work at the highest level, then you can, you know?
Yeah.
Because everyone has different styles and everyone plays guards slightly differently. Everyone does things differently, you know? Like even Lachlan, like I trained with Lachlan recently, it's like he's very flexible. I trained with Levi, he's unbelievably flexible as well, but their flexibility is different. Lachlan has like super flexible hamstrings and he like always elevate you from north-south, whereas like Levi can just like put both his knees under his armpits, you know? Like I put some pressure, just both his knees go into the floor. I'm just like, how am I going to pass now? You know, his arms are so long, he's just pushing me away. I'm like, oh, this is long. But yeah, I think these attributes definitely come into factors later on in jiu-jitsu, but I think the reaction time is important. It's the same thing as like F1 drivers as well, right? They're like, people don't see them as athletes, but like their reaction times and their like their ability to like, the G-force in a car that is going that fast and the ability to turn corners and stuff like this, you're an athlete. It's just a different form of athlete, you know? Same as darts over there as well, you know? Everything's just perspective. Just because it's not the traditional athleticism, I think people kind of like...
I think top people make it work on their body type, like just through their mind. A lot of the time, like you look at someone, a professional athlete, a footballer, you know, there's so many different types of footballers. You know, some people are really fast, strong, whatever, technical, but they're all still professionals, and the way they score a goal or the way they take a free kick is different, but they all get the same result, and it's the same in jiu-jitsu, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And like, I want to ask you too, like, do you watch any instructionals nowadays, or do you just have so many great resources at Atos?
Yeah, you know, Atos there's definitely no lack of resources there. You know, there's 20 black belt champions on the map, like pretty consistently, you know. But yeah, so we're always evolving over there at Atos, and you know, I personally I don't purchase instructionals really too often. I will do some studying though, for sure. I like to rewatch matches more than anything. You know, I like to rewatch matches because you can learn so much more than just technique, right? And then you know, you can learn pacing, you can learn just the mental strategies, right? If you really if you really look closely, right, there's a lot you can learn other than just technique. So yeah, I'm always looking at matches and really always focusing on my game more than anyone else's, you know, because the sharper my game gets, I know that everyone else is just a lot further from catching up, you know. So that's the way I like to think about it. And then I just make sure that whenever something new comes out that I see, that I'm not left in the dust. You know, I got to make sure I kind of update that in my little computer and then and add it to my game.
Yeah, exactly. I know, like, for a while, you guys weren't as known for leg locks, but now you guys are doing them much more now. Like, right. How did you develop your leg lock game?
Yeah, you know, that's a good question. Because Kade and I growing up, we grew up in the IBJJF, you know, so we always felt like our jiu-jitsu was really, really great. The basics, the fundamentals were really great, but our growing up, you can't do leg locks, right? IBJJF, right? So our leg locks were very behind the curve, you know. And I remember I was 15. Yeah, we were 15 years old. We went to do the first ADCC trials. Andre was like, "Man, you guys got to do it. You guys are gonna do great." You know, it was our first competition. You know, fighting with adults. You know, at a high level. And so we're like, "All right, let's do it." And we're 15-year-old green belts, so we went over there, and we were doing great. We're smashing a lot of the guys, smashing, and then Kade and I, we both got to like the semis or something like that, and then we both got heel hooked. I got toe held knee barred. Kade got heel hooked like bad. You know, we both walked away. You have that picture? My knees like bent. Actually, like looks like Paulo Meow, right? It's like this. But yeah, like on the rock. It was gnarly. Anyway, we were both walking away from that event, just limping and broken. And we looked at each other. We're like, okay, we got to do something about this. You know, because Kade and I, from a technical aspect, we never really feel less. You know, we never have felt technically, less than anyone else. So to have that feeling, we hated it so much. You know, we're like, okay, this is something that we're gonna have to fix. So we went straight into the garage. You know, we put each other in heel hooks, and we just started working backwards from there. Okay, we got to figure out what to do. You know, like, okay, when the guy creates space, right, it's a problem. So let's grab him first, right? And then we just started working backwards from there. And then, you know, we started working on our defense. And I like to think that our heel defense became, you know, probably the best in the world for heel hook defense. You know, we're going against guys like Nicky Ryan, Craig Jones, you know, all the best leg lockers in the world. And nobody was coming even close to our legs, you know, not even even close to a bite, you know. So we developed after like 6 months in the garage, Kade and I every day. It was like, okay, we're gonna figure this out, you know. And that was the last time we got leg locked, you know. Ever since, Kade and I have never even really been put in a heel hook, right? I think Lackland put Kade in one in ADCC, but Kade closed the distance, you know, adjusted it and dealt with it real quick. You see this picture though? Look, I don't know if you can see. You see my knee is bent the wrong. If you look at my heel,
yeah, that's brutal.
It's a straight knee bar. Yeah, it's all bent, but
oh god.
That's actually Ethan Krellenstein right there.
Oh yeah, he's a Canadian like me.
Oh really? Yeah. Right on.
Yeah, I competed.
A lot of respect for Ethan.
He's good.
I don't respect him for that, but for everything else he's done, I get it. Yeah, he's a legend.
Yeah, for sure. I think that you guys had a great, I guess, mentality there. Like that's the way I like to deal with failures too, where like I'll feel bad about it and I'll let that bad feeling motivate me to not want to ever feel that way again, because like, man, if it like failing, losing, it feels awful. And if you can do two things. You can just say, okay, that sucks, or you can, you know, use it as motivation to get better and think, yeah, that's exactly what you guys did. That makes sense for sure. And that's something I think that doesn't, I don't know, get talked about enough, is like the conscious part of jiu-jitsu. And one thing I find interesting is like eco is becoming very popular, and they don't dismiss the conscious part of it, but they kind of I don't know, don't put a lot of weight on it. Basically it's more about like your body's like, I don't know, I guess reactions and to the environment. And but what's your opinion on eco as someone that trains it with high level guys and competes at a high level? Yeah, like, do you think that, like, one thing they say is that there's no value in static drilling whatsoever, but is that something you agree with?
I mean, I don't like static drilling generally. The way I drill is usually with dialogue. I do think eco, I mean, they're a bit extreme for my liking. Like, I drill, but the way I drill is like with dialogue. I'm not going to do a knee cut for 100 reps, right? Especially with no resistance. I'm going to be talking to my partner, and I'll ask them, oh, can you give me a little bit of resistance here? Think about what they're doing, and then I might ask them, okay, why are you doing this, right? So I can get a better understanding of what's happening there. I mean, I'm not unfamiliar with constraints. I think it's been around for a long time. I do think eco, there's a little bit like, I mean, I think they're the first gym that I know of that are going fully that way, at least to my understanding, right? I see all of these training methodologies as different tools, and that's like, if you only use one, I feel like you're almost limiting yourself a little bit, you know, because not only are you, like, one of the issues I see with the ecological approach is that then you're going to do a poorer job of communicating information, just because of, by nature, you're relying on like your body's sensitivity to it. But then if the problem and what you're doing isn't clear in your mind, it's going to be hard to build off of that and hard to think about the problem critically, if that makes sense.
No, that's exactly what I think too. Like, I think the majority of class should be live, but I still think there's a place for, you know, learning the way other people do things, and having it slow down can be helpful. Like if something's complicated to figure out, I'd rather do it just a couple times without resistance. I don't want to do it for like an hour, but like, you know, it's a couple minutes just to kind of figure it out, gets the action capacity for it. So like, you know, I feel like I can do it, and then try it live. But yeah, I've had a lot of discussions about eco, and like I've gotten some flack for it, in my opinion. So it's interesting hearing you say that for sure. And that's one thing I think, yeah, like you said, like I think just the talking about is very helpful, and understanding it, because sometimes you're in a role and like you don't know what to do. You know, it's like slow down and you're thinking like, what should I do from here? And I think that yeah, that's like an example of like thinking during your role, and it can be helpful to like pull something out of the bag of like, oh yeah, I learned that from an instructional, or like, my coach told me to do that, and that can be very helpful, I think.
Yeah, most definitely. I would definitely agree with that. Just because it's like, I don't know, it's hard to really say that, because I've heard like people talk about this, and I'm definitely not the most like well versed in like what like ecological is, but I've heard like Greg Souders say, "Oh, you never do the same move twice," and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I do some things pretty consistently. I mean, like, I definitely think there's something to be learned in a lot of these sequences. It's like, yeah, I mean, I think you understand what I mean. So it's just like, yeah, I do think it's a tool, and like you said, I think like definitely the conventional class structure of like, let's say like 45 minutes of technique and then like 15 minutes of rolling is definitely not great. Like, for example, some of the classes I teach, I like to teach technique a lot, but then I'll try to integrate like a lot of discussion in with the technique. So like, let's say I teach for 45 minutes, we're probably going to go live for more than 45 minutes afterwards. And a lot of the live will be directed. Okay, I want you guys to work in this position against like some degree of resistance, and then such and such, right? So you can really kind of hone in on certain ideas, and then you can slowly start to open it up.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree. And like, what would you think? Like, what would be your view of like the perfect class for a beginner compared to like a perfect class for like advanced? I know like perfect can have different meanings, but like, you know, if yeah, just like what do you think would be optimal? Like, you know, for a beginner, would it be like doing a lot of technique, or doing, you know, a lot of live training, and how would it differ from, you know, an advanced or competition class?
I mean, to be honest, I'm not very experienced in teaching beginners, so it's I wouldn't be able to talk from experience. I could guess. I mean, like, if I was a beginner again, how would I like to have class structured? But this is like, everyone's different, so I can't really talk from experience in regards to beginner. So I would just basically guess. I'm like, I assume like having games would be fun. Obviously, you'd want to make it so that no one gets injured. I do think some movements are important, especially depending on what type of things, like forward rolls and stuff like this. You don't want anyone spiking their neck, right? So, I mean, stuff like this is still important, and getting that done. But then when you get like advanced, like let's say you've trained for a few years at this point, you shouldn't be like, I mean, maybe forward rolls to warm up, but like I hate shrimping up and down the mat. So I definitely wouldn't have that in any of my classes, especially when the mat's long, man, or like the one where it's like you have your heels and you're back off the mat and you're just moving forward on each butt cheek and then you're skidding forward. I'm like, man, I just want to do jiu-jitsu. So I mean, for like an advanced class, I would generally structure it around like maybe an idea or a position, and then try to explore some of the ways we can look to approach this. And then you throw in a bit of technique, and like you can mix up between like, okay, show a bit of technique, do a short round, and then throw a bit more technique in, and then so on and so on.
Okay, real quick.
Yeah.
Pre-competition rituals.
Yeah.
Jerk off 8 times.
Oh, I'm curious. Yeah,
like,
what's yours?
So like rituals. Like,
Well, just what do you do to get
like burning stuff?
No. What do you do before? What do you do before?
Yeah.
Do you pray before comp? Do you sleep?
So like oh bro, yeah, I love sleeping. Like if I compete late at night, I'm staying up that night. Like I'll be on sleep schedule like my whole camp really well until the night before my fight. If I'm fighting at night, like I
then
will
you'll stay up so
I'll
you
stay
can
up as long as I can, like 3 a.m. or something, and then I'll sleep because I don't want to oversleep. Because if I like am in bed for too long, I'll wake up and I'll throw my back out. So it's like I can't.
Dude, you're 95, brother.
How did you do that? How did you face
Ruotolo like this.
It was bad. I mean,
this is giving me hope, honestly.
Technically, I was backstage pumping up my back because it was hurting. Like on the reality show, I threw my back out that morning, and we had all of our matches in one day. Like they made it look like it was a span of a bunch of different days.
Yeah, but it was one.
It was
all
one day we fought.
Wow.
And I woke up and I threw my back out that day, and I was like panicking. I was in the shower, and I was just like, "Come on, hot water, do your thing," and it wasn't working. So like, I was just with the back brace on. I have like a heated massage back brace, and it's real nice. You know, it's really nice. Tingles me well. You know, so I was like on my way
full service.
Full service. So I got to the fight. And I just did therapy. I was just like, we were supposed to be in our warm-up room, but I was like, I'm not going to be in the warm-up room because they had like a weights room. And I was just in the weights room just like doing my everything that I could to pump up my back. And it felt good enough to where it wasn't like slipping out and stuff. And then in the match, like the match healed it, which is crazy. Like after the match, I was like, it feels great.
It's that adrenaline, boy.
Yeah. Wow. And then the next day, it felt terrible. You know,
but fucking, you would not have known you were.
Yeah,
it's like in any pain.
I'm a
during
psycho.
That shit.
I'm a psycho for sure.
Also, like all of the times you've been really tired, you don't show it. Which is
people
fantastic.
always say that. Like, bro, I get tired in matches. Like,
you look
people
fine.
are like, how do you not get tired? I'm like, trust me, I was tired. Yeah. But it's like I do have a pretty good like I fight really well drunk. You know, it's like I can like be.
Have you done this?
No.
Have you been drunk?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
Have.
How many? Like once. Twice? You can count how many
3 times.
3 times.
I've been drunk 3 times. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. Once. Yeah. It's been. Yeah. Every single time I got overly drunk too. It was never like just take a few beers. It was always like I didn't remember the night.
Dude, have a shot of tequila.
Dude, our last podcast was ridiculous.
Yeah.
We had to cut like an hour off because it was. I don't know.
It was horrible.
Black.
I felt like shit for like a week after.
I'm still not.
You gotta go sit in a sauna for like a day.
I did.
It didn't work.
I
tried.
Gosh dang it!
Just dehydrated me more. I was like,
That's how
I have a headache.
Messed up.
It was so bad.
Yeah, I'm never gonna get that drunk.
You guys,
again.
Do you guys sweat a lot?
Yes.
I'm the
sweatiest motherfucker. Yeah, it's hot in here. I'm good now, but
freaking, I'm always a sweater.
I'm a heavy sweater.
Is that why you got the tank top on?
It is actually. I know it's gonna be fucking hot. There's no shirt. Look at this guy.
I need to start wearing white more.
You?
Why? Show the nipples?
To block the sweat.
Let it evaporate.
Like, my back is probably.
Is that how it works?
Yeah. I get you. Wait,
well,
what?
Yeah, white just looks better if sweat. You know, it's like
the white t-shirt contest.
White t-shirt contest.
Yeah, gray is the worst. That I know.
Or like blue, like a dark blue.
Yeah, or like maroon 7, the worst shade.
I think black is the best.
It is one. White's definitely better because it's just my armpits that sweat, so it's like I kind of keep them covered. Like if it was like I was sweating through my chest, then it would like be see through. And I'd show my nipples and everything.
Yeah, what Damien? White is the best. Okay, what do you?
Hey, man,
that's the whole point of the white, the wet t-shirt
right,
contest.
Gotta,
Usually, the wet t-shirt contest is with white shirts.
Yeah, it's not a black t-shirt contest.
You're not technically white.
I'm Puerto Rican through and through.
Yeah,
so you can say it.
Yeah,
say
the N-word.
Hard R.
Say it. Yar.
Jesus.
Who that?
Oh my God, man. That's crazy.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was right there, my friend.
Well,
but I was drunk. I never like
tequila
this.
Sweats.
Yeah, tequila sweats. I do. I'm always first to sweat.
And now, is it because you have bigger pores, or is
Huge
it because
pores.
or is it
he's so poor?
I'm so poor.
I have such big pore.
Hey, come on, bro. I'm making good money. No, I think sweating
Hopefully
is.
my pores close up now that I'm fighting for UFC. You know.
There we go. Your pore is going to turn to riches.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I think sweating is a skill. I think we're all very good sweaters.
Yeah,
You know?
I'm a great sweater.
Yeah, for
Like,
real.
Always sweating. Like
You creatine?
yes,
Like all the time. You're good
I'd
on
cycle
it.
creatine. Like,
Yeah.
I'll take creatine for like 2 months, and then like when I'm like after this next match, it's like I've just been going through it this past like couple of months, like with injuries and training. So it's like after this next match, I'm taking like 2 months off, and then I won't be taking creatine or anything.
Okay,
But
really?
I'll be
Yeah.
Training 2 months.
No, I'll be training. Like I'll be doing weightlifting.
2 months off
and,
creatine?
like,
You mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I'll
okay,
just
okay.
kind of like not take creatine, just
Lay
so I
off
can
it,
like
yeah.
re-experience the effects of just like
Yeah,
freaking
yeah.
blowing up. You know.
You really blow up. Yeah, I went just. I was in Dominican for like a week, and no creatine. I'm traveling. I don't really fucking think about it.
Yeah.
And I come back, and I was like, yeah, you reinflate. You're like, oh, this is nice.
Just hold more water, right?
You hold more water, but
I
it feels
also,
good.
I feel like when I'm on creatine, I feel like I don't get injured as easy. I'm carrying more water weight. Like I'm like healthier. Like there's a lot of studies too, like with how much it helps you. Like
your brain too.
Yeah.
Everything's lubricated more. It's important to have.
Some body lube.
It's like changing your oil on your body. You know.
That's right. I love changing my oil.
Wait, you do 5 grams? What do you do?
I do 10.
10?
Yeah,
Oh,
10
really?
grams?
Yeah, so it's like 5 grams is like what they said is like how much you should take, but it's like you can't overdose on creatine. You know, it's like
Not with that attitude.
I'm sure if you took 100 grams, like that would be too much. But it's like you can't overdose on creatine, and it's like with how much, like 5 grams is for a person. It's not for like a high level athlete.
If you're just constantly sweating and using your muscle waters,
so, and like I drink like over a gallon of water a day. So it's like I do more than what they say, and I felt better effects from it, like for sure.
Interesting. Yeah, it has like mental clarity effects too and shit. It's
white powder, you know, it's just cool white powder.
Cool white powder gets the job done.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the creatine. When I get off it, I lose a little bit of
penis length,
puffiness.
Oh. It definitely leans you when you get off it.
Yeah,
you look freaking lean.
Yeah, for sure.
Shred out.
I'd rather look bigger than leaner.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
It's healthier, I think. Just like being lean isn't good for performance. As cool as you look, like when I'm
best
shredded,
athletes aren't shredded.
Your joints are gonna take more damage.
Your joints take more damage.
If you're just super low body fat lean all the time.
You look cool, but it's like you're not a performance.
I feel the best is when I'm eating the worst. Like if I'm just
Honestly,
eating whatever I want and just eating crap and just lifting a bunch of weights, like I feel like I have armor on, you know?
My resting heart rate drops if I eat pizza like 3 times over the week.
It's like resting heart rate 40.
Yeah, it will, like I'll notice it. I'll fucking DeSantos, shout out.
What's the discussion?
We're talking about creatine and like being on and off of it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But no, I'm a big believer in creatine. Like anything that I can do that's not like illegal, like I will do it. Like anything that like they don't classify as illegal or I could pop for, like I'm gonna do it because it's gonna.
Are they
help
testing in the UFC?
Yeah. So they're
really, you piss in a cup?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They're good. So they're gonna like really make it like extremely strict in 2026.
They're gonna get nobody to compete against you, dude. There's gonna be almost nobody.
So I mean,
what's up, guys? So I'm a black belt now, and one of the most common questions that I get asked is how do I continue to learn and progress? So there's a few different aspects of this. The first one we're going to cover is where do I find new techniques to start trying. So one of my favorite ways to get inspiration for new moves and stuff like that is through tape study. So I tend to watch a lot of jiu-jitsu matches and especially wrestling matches. I would honestly say I watch more wrestling matches than I do jiu-jitsu, just because it's that's the part of the game that I'm trying to develop right now. So what I'll do is, whether it be on a clip from Instagram or I'll go on YouTube, watch a full match. I'll go watch and I'll see things that both worked and didn't work, and then I try and break it down and analyze it and see, okay, why did this not work? Okay, what could he have done differently? So once I see a move that I like and I think could be applied very well to jiu-jitsu, what I end up doing is I end up taking that move. The next day I'll come into training and I'll start out drilling it, fairly slow at first, trying to get all the details down, and then obviously as I get more comfortable with it, I'm going to continue to pick up the pace until eventually it becomes like a live drill where I'll have my opponent doing, giving a little bit of resistance. And then once you progress from that, the next step is to go into like positional rounds. So like, let's say I saw a guy hit an inside trip from over under, right? So first we're going to start out drilling it slow. We're going to work our way up to a little bit of resistance, with just some light movement. And then once I feel comfortable enough with that move, I'm going to take it into training and I'm going to do a positional round based off of that move. So we'll end up, eventually progressing to full over-under rounds where you have an opponent fully resisting and you're trying to hit that specific move. Another thing I really like to do is just experiment in training. So a lot of times what I do is I'll just grab somebody that I know that I'm significantly better than, and then I'll end up just experimenting, trying new things, and that honestly, that's where I would say the majority of my new moves come from. It's just from me experimenting in live rounds with people that are worse than me. I highly suggest that you should do at least 80% of your training with people that are worse than you, and then at least out of camp for competition. As you get closer to a match and stuff, that's when you start to ramp up intensity and start to go with people that are at the similar skill level or even better than you. But yeah, when you're out of camp, I highly, highly recommend that 80% of your training should be with people that are worse than you. That's how you're gonna, experiment, try new things, come up with new moves. If I'm going against, somebody that's similar skill level than me, I'm just gonna stick to my A game. And I see this quite often where people come in and they just scrap every day, and they tend to not progress as fast. Because they're only using their A game, not trying to branch out and learn new things. So now that we have B team opened, right, there's no like head coach here. So it's just essentially a group of professional athletes, okay? And another way that I really like to learn is just conversing with these guys after training and after we roll and stuff. I do think that it's very important to, talk to your training partners after, be like, okay, you were doing this and this felt really good. What are you doing? Can you show me? And then you go on and experiment with that. So I think it's very useful to converse between your training partners. Having guys like Nicky Rod, Ethan, Craig, Damien, like all of that really helps. We talk after every round and see what's working and what's not working and try and make it better. If you guys don't have access to a super, high-level gym with high-level instructors, I highly recommend going on BJJ Fanatics and checking out instructionals. You have my instructionals on there. You got J-Rods, Nicky Rods, Ethan, Craig, Damien, Joe Chen. So there's tons of resources available on that website. You guys can also check out our submeta. But yeah, I highly recommend watching these instructionals, and then either before class starts or after class starts, you guys should start out drilling it slow, making sure that you're getting all the details, and then again eventually progressing to some light resistance, and then doing positional rounds based off of the instructional that you're watching. So yeah, I would highly recommend checking out BJJ Fanatics and Submeta. So watching other matches isn't the only tape study that I do. I also, every single day, I watch my own rounds after I get home from training. So if you guys have the opportunity to record yourselves rolling, okay, it's very useful, because then you can go back, watch your rounds. Okay, you can see the new things that you were experimenting with. We do a lot of rounds every day. It's hard to remember the new things that we were trying. So it's very good to get it on tape. That way you guys can go back and be like, oh, wow, I did this new thing, and it worked really well, and then you can continue to drill it, make it better, things like that. Another great thing about watching your own rounds is you can see the problems that you're having, right? So let's say, we're standing, I shoot a single leg, and I can get to the single leg great, but I have a really hard time finishing. Let's say you got to 10 single legs in that training session, but you only finished 3 of them, okay? Then you know that you need to start working on your single leg finishes rather than your entries. And you can also see what the opponent was doing to make it hard for you to finish, and also add that to your game. So this is another thing that I highly recommend adding. Okay, if you guys have the opportunity, record yourselves rolling, and then go back and watch it, see what problems you have, address that problem, and then you guys can even do positional rounds based off of the problems that you're having, right? So if I was having trouble finishing the single leg and not entering to the single leg, the next day I'll come in, and what I'll do is I'll just start with the single leg and then work on solely just finishing, and then as soon as you put your opponent down, you guys will stop and reset. So these are just some of the ways that, I like to continue to learn and progress at the highest levels.
But there'll be a win condition when you hit this certain
Yeah.
kind of criteria, whatever.
That makes sense. So like sparring with a goal and with like making it a game, like an ecological approach.
Yeah, well, it's exactly. It's like a hybrid approach.
I like it. I like it, but it's like you can't just do ecological.
You gotta do
You know,
both. Yeah.
it's like I really like it, and I think it's a good mindset behind like making jiu-jitsu and using your brain and your own superpowers to make your game better. But it's like you need a foundation, and you need, the middle ground, and then you need the advanced stuff. Yeah. But
Yeah, our
Both, yeah.
our whole game or our whole camp pretty much for CJI is mainly ecological,
Yeah.
or like a hybrid approach of it, where it's like the guys do games, open rounds, and then there is a Q&A after the fact.
Yeah, I mean, the only
we're
ti-
not drilling anymore. I love this.
The only time I drill something is when I absolutely don't know it at all.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah.
my wrestling coach will teach me something. I'm like, what the crap? Let me feel that, and I'll like drill it a few times. I'm like, I already got it down. All right, let me start like working it.
100%. And then from your own sort of development with jiu-jitsu, mate, obviously you've got very good at quite a young age with not decades of training. And there's obviously discussions around, drilling, not drilling, live training, and so on and so forth. For you, like what are the key things that you apply in your practice and in your training that have made you as good as you are, do you think?
For me, I think it's just having a goal every session. if drilling, I think different people thrive in different situations, you know? Some people like to drill because technique gets stuck in their brain. Other people can get shown something once and they can do it. So I think it's finding what works best for you. For me, let's say when I was training with Jozef, he would show me a new pass. I would drill it once on him, and I would go into training, and I would just try and do it in training. And every single round, I would try and force myself to that position. I would try and do it. Other people, maybe they need to drill it for half an hour, then add a little bit more resistance, and then do specifics from there, and then start doing it in full sparring. If that works for them, that's what works for them, you know? But in my head, it's like, if he shows me this and I can't get there in a round, why am I going to spend so much time developing it if I can't get there? Mm-hmm. So it's like a body lock pass, you know? But I never end up in a body lock pass. So why am I going to spend so much time developing body lock if I'm not going to go there? Whereas like a camping pass or north-south passing, when someone first shows it to me, then I find myself in a position where it's there, and now I can start working that, then it improves my game and it gets bigger. Maybe the body lock will come in later on, but like at the minute, I never see an opportunity to go for that pass. So why am I going to sit there and drill it and do specifics from there and get super good at it if I can't get there? Or if I feel like it's not part of my game, you know? Like Jozef would show me a few things. I'm like, okay, I can apply this right now, and like this is going to make me better in short term. And then like once I've done that, maybe now I've come into another wall, and now I can tackle that wall as it comes, you know? Like Owen Flanagan says this a lot when it comes to leg locks. He'll like spend 2 weeks doing one thing. If he doesn't like it, he'll stop doing it. And then like, or if he does do it, then they give him a different reaction. Now he spends another week tackling this thing, and then basically just constantly developing your game like position by position. Obviously you can't get everything better at once, but it's like I'll go in this week, for example, okay, I want to work a knee cut pass, right? I want to work sitting in a split squat, applying pressure, cooking people, making them tired, right? So now I'm going to go and do that for maybe 2-3 weeks. Then if I find certain people are doing things that are like I'm struggling with, or I'm getting these different reactions, I'll ask Deem, or I'll ask Owen, I'll ask other people, I'll ask Taylor, and then I'll be like, okay, and then they'll give me these options, and I'll go try them, and then whichever I prefer, I'll stick to that, and then I'll get good at that, and then I'll move on once it's working, you know? I think that's the best way for me. That's the way I've improved a lot. And just even, honestly, when I was a blue belt, I wasn't thinking like this, you know? And I was just training in a room full of good guys, and I was just getting better. Like, I was just training with them, and I was constantly just picking up what they were doing, and like, just taking their techniques during the round, you know? Like, he would sweep me away, and I'd be like, oh, right, I couldn't stop that, you know? Then I would do it, he would do it again, and then I would think about ways that I can stop it, you know? And that during the round, then I would start lifting his leg, and okay, if he tries to wrestle up and I pick up his inside leg, now he can't heist onto his knee, he can't sweep me, but then he starts kicking me over and switching into a single leg X. Okay, now this is nothing I need to worry about, you know? And then I can start like dismantling it in that way, you know? Rather than going in like, oh, I'm going to go do 3 weeks specifics from this position. And then like you go into live rounds. If you do the armbar from mount and then you can't get to mount, why have you just, what good is that armbar going to do for you, you know? You have to be able to get there first. I think it's like the progression of your game progressing. Obviously, if you're early on in the career, you don't really know what your game is. It takes time to develop what you feel you're good at, which I think came naturally to me. You know, I always wanted to be able to move fast. I always wanted to be on outside. I always wanted like kind of crazy scrambles. It always made me enjoy jiu-jitsu, and it made other people enjoy my jiu-jitsu. And that's what my end goal was, right? I like the fact that people want to watch me do jiu-jitsu, and when I'm doing like crazy back takes, I'm like, and I take their back, I'm like, that was sick, you know? And that's what I do jiu-jitsu for. I don't do it to like, some people find it enjoyable to go sprawl on someone, they get super tired, they give up and they pass into the mount. Some people find that fun. I don't, you know? I don't want to sit on someone and cook them and then eventually mount them. I kind of want to like pass to the outside and like keep the movement going and like breaking them mentally that way, you know? So I think it's just what you prefer, you know? Taylor Pearman, he loves just sitting in the split squat, sprawling on you, cooking you that way, like clearing your frames. But for him, he finds that fun, you know? And he gets them out, he mother's milk you, like he bullies people like that, you know? Whereas I prefer like crazy outside passing, trying to jump on your back, trying to jump on crazy bolos and stuff like this. So I think it's finding also what you find enjoyable rather than like what's the most effective. Because that's why do jiu-jitsu, right? Do you do it to be the best? Then fine, okay, you can go the strategic approach. You could probably follow Gordon. He probably has the best way to get the best at jiu-jitsu. But if you do it for fun, find out what you enjoy. If you don't enjoy playing guard, why play guard? Start wrestling, start going on top, start passing, you know? It's like, and if you enjoy playing guard, get good at playing guard, you know? So it's like, enjoy jiu-jitsu for jiu-jitsu. Don't try and make it, it's like this whole strategic like thing about you have to improve a certain way forever, you know?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And do you still do a lot of like instructor-led classes then? Because I think that's always like the slight barrier with that, isn't it? Because if you go into the classes, obviously you're being taught like a broad range of techniques that your instructor is going to be sort of teaching as part of their syllabus or anything else. And I know when Kade came on the podcast, he was saying that he would pretty much just not go to those types of sessions or just sit out, and then he would look for the live sparring when he could apply the sort of stuff that you just talked about.
Yeah, I mean, for me it's different because obviously the gym I train at, I've always been like a part of that from the start. So if David, for example, is teaching a class and I'm in the corner, he'll let me do what I want, you know. If I want to drill a certain technique, if I want to work a certain thing with Eddie, I can do that, you know. And like, I think those classes, you kind of have to maybe take your own initiative and like if I'm teaching a knee cut, for example, right, and someone wants to do a slight variation from there that they find works for them, I'm not going to stop them from doing it. If anything, I'm going to go over and give them tips on how to do it better, you know. I'm not against like, if I taught this guy a body lock and he weighs 65 kilos and he doesn't think he's going to be able to body lock anyone, and he thinks maybe a tight waist knee cut's going to work better and he wants to drill that instead, like, I'm not going to go like, oh, you can't do that. You know, certain old school like professors and like Brazilians were like, no, you can't, you have to do the technique I just showed you. I don't really care like that. You can kind of drill what you want as long as you're drilling it correctly. And that's just all I care about. As long as you're doing the technique right, kind of do what you want. Take your own development into your own hands as well. Me, I used to train, my main trainer was Elliot for a long time. He's injured now, so he doesn't train too much, but we used to sit there for hours on end just drilling, you know. Like, I think the main question I get a lot in training is like crab ride, you know. Like, I have pretty good crab ride. I take a lot of people's back from crab ride, and it's like, people are like, oh, how'd you do crab ride? How'd you get to the crab ride? I'm like, bro, you don't want to know. I was like, Elliot's iPad has got a 3-hour clip of me and him sitting there doing crab ride specifics in Apex for 3 hours. And the next day, we just couldn't walk. Our neck and our back was fucked. We just like, we just sat there. We did crab ride specific one for one for 3 hours. And then we'd like watch the tape after, and we'd be like, we'd watch some like Espin clips and other clips of people, Levi, Jones, who were good at bolos. And like, now my crab ride immediately switched when I went to no-gi. Like, I didn't find it was like a massive difference. Obviously, because when I was doing it, it was in the gi. When I went to no-gi, I felt like it transitioned pretty easy because I understand how to take the back from there already. So now it's like super easy. But it only took that like one session. Admittedly, it was 3 hours. It was horrible. But like, after then, it's like crab rides become super easy for me now. Like, whenever anyone has a question from there, like getting the answers like super easy. It always comes to me quite naturally from there, you know? And now I don't get bowled that often. So it's like, it was worth it. Now my bowler's pretty good. And it's like, for me, I find that entertaining, you know? I find them like crazy back takes and like scrambles from there is like...
Yeah, sick.
Yeah, exactly. When you see someone do a crazy crab ride, like, I don't know if you've seen Levi Jones versus Oliver Tarzan. He does that crazy bowler where he's just like climbing his way to his back. And I'm like, it's like a 10-second sequence. He's like starts on his ankles and he just climbs and crawls all the way to the back. I'm like, that's beautiful. That is just sick jiu-jitsu, you know? And that's kind of what I want to have myself, you know?
Yeah, man, that's a really cool way to coach, isn't it? I think we talk often about like the difference between like teaching or instructing jiu-jitsu and coaching jiu-jitsu. And I think what you've talked about there is just coaching, isn't it? Because it's identifying people's strengths and weaknesses and allowing them to flourish in those areas.
Because no one's the same, are they?
No.
Body types are all different. The way we process information's different. The way we apply ourselves are different. And the way we learn is different. So
if you've got old man hips or not.
Exactly. You guys know who Shane Montague is? You heard of this guy? Shane Montague. He's a rooster weight, right? He won everything at brown belt. Like, literally won the worlds, Brazilian nationals, everything like this. Bro, he can put his knees into his armpits with his back flat on the floor. Bro, I cannot do that. Like, he'll be laying on his back and both knees will go under his arms. Bro, Parsons guard is basically impossible.
Yeah.
How do you get in between the space between his knees and the chest if his knees literally goes past his chest, right?
Space,
yeah. Like, I can't do that. Yeah. So if I went to teach him, oh yeah, you're gonna wrestle up. Why?
Yeah, why?
Why? Oh, he has the best guard retention I've ever felt because his knees go to his chest. Same with like Elliot, my other friend. He's so flexible. Play to your strengths, right? And I have a guy like obviously Faris. He's one of my other training partners. He's super strong and he's really good at wrestling up and standing up. I'm not gonna tell him to go on his back and start playing lasso and start like inverting through to reverse lever and stuff like this. No, wrestle up. Because that's what you're good at, you know? Play to your strengths, as you guys are saying. Like, your body type works for that way, and you got to find out what works for your body type. If you're super strong and you're slow, I'm not going to tell you to outside pass north-south. No, sit in a body lock and bully the people, you know? Because that's what's going to work for you, right? So I think that's also an important factor.
Yeah. There's a million ways to win in there. There's a million ways to win the jiu-jitsu.
That's the beauty of it.
But yeah, Nikki and I have been fucking having the guys, you know, play these games. I mean, I feel your single leg and your wrestle up is something that we've been working on for a lot. How have you been liking the games the past, month or so?
I really have been enjoying it. I feel like for like building skills, it's like the best way to train, because I feel like for a while I was like, oh, I'm gonna try to wrestle up in this round, but it's not the same as like doing a round and then you wrestle up and maybe you get one and then you're on top and you got to pass the guard or whatever. So it's like, it's way better than doing like an open round. And I think also too, like when I do leg entries, I'm like, okay, I can use this to, because the way that you win the game is by wrestling up, not by like submitting people. So like when I teach, like, because I also like teach the stuff that I'm working on too. So it's like when I'm teaching it, I'm like, I tell the class, I'm like, when you play this game, don't try to submit your partner. Your goal is only to sweep, and then like the submission kind of opens up from there. So I think that it's just super good way to train.
Sick.
Same with like the single leg round. Like with the first few weeks, I felt like I was just kind of getting ragdolled from there, and now I have kind of like a little system that I'm using, which is, you know,
like each week it's looking better and better. Ethan started playing the games too.
How's it going for Ethan?
Oh, this is gonna be great.
Terrible. Like your immune system starts to shut down. No matter, even if you're doing everything perfect, something's gonna go wrong. I feel like your immune system, your joints, maybe your skin health. I don't know, something. I feel like if you're redlining all the time, something's gonna go wrong.
Yeah.
What do you like to do for recovery?
Usually I train twice a day, 5 days a week. So, and on the weekends I make sure to like rest, maybe go out in nature, just recover, sleep around 10 hours.
Damn. I love that.
And
that's amazing. Straight, no interruption, uninterrupted.
No.
What's your secret to like sleeping so like, because people like, I mean, obviously some people struggle to fall asleep, stay asleep, you know? I don't know, is there like, do you have like a meditation guided app or like guided meditation? I mean, or like,
no,
or just close your eyes and you're out.
Yeah, just pretty much it.
Body scan? No.
No.
You know, like you do body scan. Like that's some of the guys, you know, mess with me after training. I'll lay down, like I'll be like just on my back and I'll do body scan because my back just beat up, destroyed. That's something I like to do after training. It's like 10-minute timer, body scan. You just redirect your attention to different parts of the body. You ever tried that?
I haven't.
You don't need it, huh?
I just stretch before class, before every class, and I'm pretty much fine.
Yeah, sauna? You're not a big fan of the sauna?
I've tried a sauna a couple times. I'm okay with it. Like if I need to cut weight.
If I need to cut weight, that's the problem. You relate the sauna to cutting weight, but it's I see you. I mean, I get you. Yeah.
Yeah, but also like doing cardio, like running, sprinting. Sometimes I do that to cut weight rather than sauna.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I feel like it's good because the sauna, apparently my nutrition was telling me that it brings the body temperature like really high. It's not optimal for you.
Yeah.
D, so I'll ask you, what instructional would you advise if someone asked you like, what instructional should I get if they don't have a lot of money and maybe they've never bought an instructional before? What would you tell them would be like a game changer?
Yeah, so it honestly depends on your goals and like what's your initial skill set. But I gotta just talk about some instructionals that I really like and I think are underrated. So one of my favorite instructionals is Danaher's Go Further Faster, half guard, passing, and dynamic pins. I think this is the most underrated instructional because I've never heard anyone talk about it, and it's probably my top 3 favorite instructionals.
Dang.
So like a lot of like my passing has come from there. I probably reckon Gordon's seated guard. That one's not underrated. I think people rate this one fairly appropriately. Like this one was a great instructional for me just because he talked a lot about like his attacks. And for me, especially at the time, my whole game was seated guard. And so it was like very nice for me to have that type of instructional available. And I watched that like 3 times. So like that was probably those two, probably 2 of my favorite ones. And then lastly, if I had to give a guess, like probably Craig's power ride, like definitely I really, it would probably be between that one and Just Stand Up. I like both of them. Probably I'd lean a little bit more towards the power ride just because that one was pretty like, it really changed my perspective on a lot of the pinning in Jiu-Jitsu. Like traditionally you're taught to, okay, you want to progress through a hierarchy of pins from like, let's say you pin them on bottom and then you go to side control and then you go to mount and then you take the back and then these are the positions you want to play. Whereas
Craig really talked about like almost the in between a lot of these positions and more unconventional means of pinning people. Because in wrestling, you don't really see people go into like side control, mount. It's quite different the way people approach that. And so in the context, especially of ADCC, you want to keep someone on their back, right? So using a lot of like wrestling tactics and technique to keep someone down. So probably those three.
Heck yeah. So you said going farther, faster.
Danaher go further, faster. Half guard passing and dynamic pinning.
Right. Gordon Ryan, seated guard. And then power ride. And just stand up from Craig Jones.
Yeah,
sweet.
One of those two.
I got a wish list. Awesome. Yeah, and then I'll ask you, Jones. I'll just give you the mic. What matches would you recommend people watching it? You know, or your favorite ones that you really felt like, oh, you learned something.
So I mean, like a lot of the times when I watch specific matches to learn specific stuff I want to work on. Right. So a lot of times if I want to work my guard, I'll watch people who are renowned for having good guards. So I watch people like Lachlan Giles. To be honest, a person I've watched quite a lot as well is Diego Pau. I've watched a lot of his stuff. He's got very good, just clean, beautiful jiu-jitsu. A lot of it is just like super smooth, super dynamic. Whereas if like some people don't have as much cleanness to it. Obviously for the outside passing, there's like the Ruotolo brothers are very good for that. Gabriel Souders is very good for that. For a lot of my guard recently as well, I've been watching some of Jozef, some of Lachlan's stuff. And then Diego Pau is the main three I've been watching for guard. And then on top, the Ruotolos and Gabriel Souders are my recommendations.
What do you think kind of makes a good marriage when it comes to like a coach and an athlete?
Communication. Like if we both care about each other and care about where we're going and we talk along the way, we're more likely to get there and accomplish the thing we set out to do. You know, if we can't communicate, if we're not on the same path, going towards the same goal, I think it could really be deleterious to our relationship.
I think it, aligning with that same mission. When I first got to Standard, it was like I really wanted to take, grappling as far as I could, and I didn't know anything about the approach or anything like that. But, I started training with him. I realized my coach, Greg, he really cared about the development of for his guys. And that's what really got me into hey, let me dive into this approach a little bit more. Let me be an athlete. Let me buy into this and really practice genuinely,
And you were a black belt when you got to Standard, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I was a black belt. I think I was already training. It was 12 years already. Yeah. But mainly in the gi. And
okay.
Yeah. So when I first got there, I was, I was talking to Greg, I was picking Greg's ear and I was he was doing it totally different from what I was used to. I came from the traditional approach, what typical jiu-jitsu practitioners are exposed to, warm up, do a couple of drills and do 5 open rounds at the end of the practice. And, I thought I had a pretty good understanding of what jiu-jitsu was at the time. I'm black belt already. And what I noticed is man, this practice is really opening my eyes to what grappling actually could be. And not to mention, a lot of his guys were piecing me up when I first got there. Yeah. See, these guys were blue belts and purple belts. It's what's going on here? And then I started just kind of picking his ear and then reading some of the things he was reading. And then from there, just, did what an athlete should do, listen to their coach and see where it takes them.
What made you interested in the first place? What caught your attention?
The practice, first thing was the practice was more fun. It was all live. It was all live. If you guys ever, look into the constraint-led approach, there's live goes, sparring, right? But you had different wind conditions, different ways to play the game. And I was the thing about it was it was always fun, right? There was no passive drilling or anything like that. And I felt I was I would see the problem solving occur real time.
Maybe a little less right and wrong.
Right.
Yeah, more effective. Because it's if you say you're going to do this thing, can you do this thing you say you're going to do? It's not just a discussion how it might happen. How is it actually happening? Yeah. If I tell you to grab that guy's feet and try to go around them, and they're resisting you, can you actually do it? So you get to see the effect of your actions right away. And I think it links the athlete with their environment. And I think that he responded incredibly well to that.
The online problem solving because it's live, right? It's a live resisting body. That's that you're like that online problem solving was a big thing that I really enjoyed in this with the practice structure.
I don't know if you can remember back to kind of when you first started over there at Standard versus like kind of how you approach roles now. I know you have much more skill, but it's like just 4 more years, right? What do you think was different with how you head into a role and like your intention with what you were going to do versus now the way you head into the roles, your reactions and intentions?
So one of the things like in the traditional approach, you have this encyclopedia of moves that you're trying to apply to somebody, and that was something that I had to try to get away from. It's like when some of the things like it's like a guard pass, for example, right? I would approach a guarded player, it's like, all right, I want to do this move. If this move doesn't work, I'm going to do this move. But really, it's like we're really just trying to solve some invariant problem that's always occurring in the guard. And that's how I approach now, like, what things don't change, right? And focus on maintaining those conditions as opposed to, trying to pull out a move from the moves I remember. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. So I asked you about your favorite instructionals or the ones that you recommend for people. Maybe one, you're 19. So, I try to refrain from asking like, what would you tell a young competitor? Cause I always feel like, man, I'm 32, so I still have dreams, but obviously the youth is going to be able to relate to you. Like like I said, I'm a head coach at Underworld Jiu-Jitsu, and I have 2 15-year-olds, and they got the whole world in front of them. They want to do MMA. One of them wants to do MMA. The other one definitely wants to do competitive jiu-jitsu. And so, what would be your piece of advice? Because to them, you're like, the superstar. So what would you tell them as to like maybe one thing that they could focus on that would definitely help them?
Yeah. So I'd probably say like, I do think you want to have like the long term in mind, because I feel like you see a lot of young kids burn themselves out sometimes. And so I think that's something to be cautious of. But in terms of in general, I think it's like try to make sure you still enjoy training. Obviously, there are going to be days that are tough, and sometimes those are necessary. But you don't want to put yourself in a situation where, like, I've like, especially when I'm training here, sometimes like I'll be doing 3 a days, and if I'm training hard and I'm not really doing anything outside of it, sometimes it'll get to me where I feel a little bit more burnt out. So being wary of this, and that doesn't mean like taking like days off training, but it's kind of like where are you occupying your mind? Because sometimes if you take training too seriously all the time, you kind of lose the love for it. And I think that's kind of what'll really keep you going. There are a lot of things like you can push hard and really get a lot of things done, but I think it's like you want to be here for a long time, right? You don't want to have to just like burn super bright and then completely burn out. I feel like, at least for me, jiu-jitsu is something I love. It's not something I just want to get good at and then like that's it, and then I won't do jiu-jitsu. I want to do it for like the rest of my life. So it's important for me that, especially as like for us, like we're professional competitors, when it's something like it's your livelihood, it can often like running a gym, I'm sure you can relate. Sometimes it gets a little bit more stressful. It's hard to really enjoy the jiu-jitsu. So just keeping that in mind and not necessarily putting too much pressure on yourself all the time. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes you're about to compete. You really need to like double down. You need to really focus, but then that's not all the time. So like for right now, I'm kind of in an off season where I'm playing around with new technique. I'm really enjoying jiu-jitsu. I'm not worried about, okay, I need to win every round. I'm just kind of playing with things, kind of seeing what I like to do, and just kind of enjoying training as much as I can, enjoying the experience, enjoying the people around me, and so on.
When chicken corn, so the corn can grow, mama. Hey, when chicken corn, so the corn can grow. Now, now, now.